Chapter 4:25. The dark golden sword light was like a crescent moon that split the sky. 8 dark red figures were sent flying backwards, spitting out blood. They heavily crashed into the chairs and tables. Kacha, kacha, kacha sounds rang out as the chairs and tables were all shattered. One sword strike, just one sword strike, was enough to break the 8-direction cloud rain sword formation and injure 8 Regalia Regiment soldiers who were at the late Chi stage. The Red Clothed Association's leader and the other 3 stared blankly at the figure standing in the middle of the hall. His body was as straight as a sword, emitting a terrifying sword pressure. Their hearts were trembling. The air seemed to have solidified. It was incomparably oppressive, and breathing became difficult. The faces of the Red Clothed Association's leader and the other 3 gradually turned pale. The 8-direction sword formation set up by the 8 Regalia Legion soldiers was still unable to kill the opponent by the 7th wave. It seemed that other than the countless tears on his robe, there was no injury at all. Furthermore, his powerful sword had broken through the formation and injured the 8 Regalia Legion soldiers. This scene was simply inconceivable. From the time the Red Clothed Association had taken control of the 8-direction sword formation until now, this was the first time it had been broken from the inside. As the upper echelons of the Red Clothed Association, they were very clear about the strengths and weaknesses of the 8-direction sword formation. They were also very clear that to break the formation, one had to use an attack that exceeded the limits of the formation. Otherwise, one would have to endure even more attacks and finally die under the sword formation. The 8-direction cloud rain sword formation set up by 8 Regalia Legion warriors at the late Chi realm. Unless one had the strength beyond the Chi realm, it would be impossible to break the formation from the inside. For a moment, the Red Clothed Association's leader and the others felt as if they were dreaming. The 8 Regalia Legion soldiers quickly stood up and tapped the ground with the tips of their feet. Ignoring the blood at the corners of their mouths, they shook their dark red swords and shot towards Chu Mu like blood-red lightning, attacking again. The 8 blood-red lightning bolts were fast, and in the blink of an eye, the 8 dark red swords seemed to pierce through the sky and approach Chu Mu, less than half a meter away. Chu Mu, who was releasing the terrifying sword pressure, raised his eyelids. Frightening lightning bolts shot out, and the profound star sword moved at a speed that the naked eye couldn't follow. One direction sword. 8 streaks of dark golden light fell from the sky like stars. The rock-shaking force was activated, and an ear-piercing buzzing sound reverberated in the surroundings. The 8 Regalia Legion soldiers flew back at an even faster speed, spitting out mouthfuls of blood. Their sword-wielding wrists were slightly twisted, and the sleeves on their arms had been shattered by a violent force. They cut a sorry figure. Their bodies flew back a few meters and landed on the ground, leaving a long trail behind them. They slammed heavily into the pillars of the hall. With a bang, the entire hall seemed to shake. The profound star sword was slanted to the ground, as if it had never moved. Chu Mu had used the majority of his body's strength in that one strike in addition to his sword chi, intent, and rock-shaking sword energy. The 8 Regalia Legion soldiers couldn't even withstand a single strike. They were already injured and couldn't get up for a while. Dead silence. There was dead silence in the hall. The Red Shirt Society's leader and the others couldn't say anything. He had to admit that at this moment he felt fear and dread in his heart. This was the first time he had felt this way ever since he had become the Red Shirt Society's leader. They were very clear that if the 8 Regalia Legion were not a match for Chu Mu, then they were not a match for him either. If they drew their swords, they might be killed on the spot. Let them go. Chu Mu slowly raised the profound star sword. The blade was steady and straight as he pointed it at the Red Shirt Society's leader. His flat tone made the Red Shirt Society's leader's heart contract, bringing with it a great deal of pressure. Impudent! A fierce shout suddenly exploded like rolling thunder. A heavy sword pressure rolled out, and then a dark red figure with a hint of gold charged out from a corner of the hall like a bolt of lightning. A sword split the air as it attacked Chu-Mu. Terrifying sword light surged like a tide. Hundreds of dark red sword light covered the sky and covered Chu-Mu's entire body. It was as if there was nowhere for him to run. Each sword light contained an incomparably terrifying sharpness and edge, capable of cutting and piercing through everything. In the next moment, hundreds of dark red sword lights gathered together and formed a thick, dark red sword light. The red sword light even contained a hint of gold. It was filled with an unparalleled destructive power. Its power made the Red Shirt Society's leader and the others feel suffocated. The sword Chi of the peak of the Chi High realm, 90% of the normal mentality, and the powerful Earth rank ancient sword art. The combination of these three could instantly kill a normal sword artist at the peak of the Chi High realm. This sword light came too suddenly. Even Chu-Mu was not prepared for it. In less than a breath of time, the powerful sword light had already arrived. It was less than 5 meters away from Chu-Mu to a powerful sword artist. 5 meters could be crossed in less than a blink of an eye. Turning around, he raised his sword. Starlight flashed on the blade of the sword. The Sky Origin Sword Chi was instantly infused into the blade. The ripping mentality flowed and turned the blade into a dark gold color. 1% of the perfect sword force was condensed, and the sword slashed towards the huge dark red sword light. Deshang's rock-shaking force was fully activated. Rock-shaking wave sword at full power. An ear-piercing buzzing sound was heard. The Red Shirt Society's leader and the others could not help but feel their bodies tremble. They had goosebumps all over their bodies. In their eyes, it was as if the stars had been shattered and turned into a dark gold sword light. With a loud bang, the dark gold sword light and the dark red sword light collided. The high-speed, vibrating force shattered the dark red sword light in an instant. The sword light had landed on the opponent's sword, and the terrifying rock-shaking force exploded. With a loud bang, the sword artist at the peak of the Chi High realm who had suddenly used the ancient sword art shook uncontrollably. The web between his thumb and forefinger was torn and blood was spilling out. The sword in his hand almost flew out of his hand. The dark red sleeve of his hand that was holding the sword was torn apart by a terrifying force. The sword artist at the peak of the Chi High realm flew back a few meters and landed on the ground. His feet stepped on the ground as he continuously stepped back. Every step he took was extremely heavy and caused the hard ground to crack. He left clear footprints on the ground, and around the footprints were countless cracks. After taking 8 steps back, the sword artist at the peak of the Chi High realm's face turned from red to white. He unconsciously spat out a mouthful of blood. Only then did his face turn slightly red. His eyes were as sharp as a hawk's and filled with shock. Not only was the sleeve of his right arm torn apart, even his skin was bleeding. Ever since he had mastered the 5th chapter of the Heavenly Desolate sword body, the muscle chapter, his body had become 10 times stronger. Chu-Mu's strength had also increased by 10 times. With the combination of his other attributes and his terrifying sword art, the power of each of his sword attacks had increased by several folds. He had reached a level that he could not reach before. Even Commander Lee was defeated by a single sword attack. The Red Shirt Society's leader and the others were shocked. They could not believe what they were seeing. The sword artist at the peak of the Chi High realm was the only commander of the Blood Regalia Legion. He was extremely powerful. It could be said that Commander Lee was currently the strongest person in the Red Shirt Society. Even the Red Shirt Society's leader could not compare with him. The Red Shirt Society's leader had sparred with Commander Lee before, but he was defeated within 100 sword attacks. Now, Commander Lee was defeated by a single sword attack under the circumstances of a sneak attack. This Chu-Mu Did he really have the strength to be called Sky Sword? That kind of strength was close to the level of a sword master, or even at the level of a sword master. Let them go. Chu Mu said for the second time. I'll let them go. The Red Shirt Society's leader thought quickly and came to a conclusion. He agreed to let them go. Even though he was unwilling, he had no other choice. Chu Mu was too strong. Even Commander Li was not a match for him. Perhaps the entire Red Shirt Society could kill Chu Mu, but the Red Shirt Society would definitely suffer a great loss. Don't forget, there were 2 other top forces in the Demon Shaker City that were on par with the Red Shirt Society. Of course, the Red Shirt Society's hidden strength was not limited to this. There was the shadow of an Origin Realm warrior behind them. However, the influence of an Origin Realm warrior was too great. Therefore, there was a rule among the Origin Realm warriors in the Demon Shaker City. Unless it was absolutely necessary, they were not allowed to attack sword artists below the Origin Realm. Warriors had their own dignity. If the powerful Red Shirt Society could not deal with a sword artist at the Chi High level and needed an Origin Realm warrior to attack, then there was no need for the Red Shirt Society to exist. As for the 9th Transformation Realm, it was a very special realm. When a sword artist was in this realm, it was best not to attack unless necessary. After thinking for a while, the Red Shirt Society's leader could not think of any other way to kill Chu Mu. If this continued, it would be even more disadvantageous for the Red Shirt Society. Not long after, Han Yi was brought out. He looked a bit haggard. It was obvious that he had not been treated well, but he did not suffer any injuries. After looking deeply at the Red Shirt Society's people, Chu Mu looked indifferent. He turned around and led Han Yi, who was still in shock, out of the Red Shirt Society's hall. Outside the Red Shirt Society, there were a large number of sword artists. There were more than 100 of them, and they were all Chi Transformation Realm members of the Iron Sword Clan. Vice Leader, what do we do now? A sword artist from the Iron Sword Clan looked at Han Sheng and asked. It had been a long time since Chu Mu had entered the Red Shirt Society. With his own strength, even if he was not dead, he would still be in a dangerous situation. Everyone get ready. Han Sheng clenched his teeth and ordered. More than 100 Chi Transformation Realm sword artists immediately straightened their bodies and emitted a strong sword Chi wave. Their eyes were shining like sharp swords being unsheathed. There were also more than a dozen Chi Transformation Realm sword artists gathered at the entrance of the Red Shirt Society. They were all shocked and quickly gripped the hilt of their sword. Their eyes flashed coldly as they stared at the Iron Sword Clan's people. They were about to draw their swords and attack. The atmosphere was tense. In the next moment, both sides would draw their swords and engage in a life and death battle. Suddenly, the door opened. Everyone's attention was attracted, and they all looked at the open door. Their expressions changed from murderous intent to shock, then to confusion, and finally to incredulity and surprise. The Iron Sword Clan's people even thought that they were hallucinating. They rubbed their eyes hard and looked again. Chu Mu and Han, you were striding out of the Red Shirt Society's main door and walking over. Leader, Lord Heavenly Sword, are you all right? Han Sheng hurried over and asked anxiously. We're fine. Brothers, you've worked hard. We'll talk when we get back. Han Yi waved his hand and said loudly, Good. The 100 or so sword artists of the Iron Sword Clan roared. Their voices reached the Red Shirt Society's people through Zhen Tian, causing their faces to turn ashen and their teeth to clench. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 426. Han Ye's return made the entire Iron Sword Gang happy. At the same time, they were filled with admiration and gratitude towards Chu Mu. At least in their memories, Chu Mu was the first person to walk out of the Red Coat Society unscathed while facing an enemy. Moreover, he even brought out their gang master. Han Yi gave out an order under the witness of all the gang members. No matter when or where, as long as Chu Mu needed help, the entire Iron Sword Gang would help him, even if it meant using up all the power of the Iron Sword Gang. Although Chu Mu did not join the Iron Sword Gang, after this incident, there was a slight connection between the Iron Sword Gang and himself. No matter what, this incident made Chu Mu's name even more famous. The title of Sky Sword was also recognized by the public. As for the reputation of the Red Coats Association, it took a huge hit. Chu Mu will die sooner or later. We can't deal with him now, but soon, once Cruel Sword's master knows that his beloved disciple has been killed, he will definitely take action. The Red Coats Association's gang leader said darkly. Most people thought that Cruel Sword was alone. Only a few people knew that Cruel Sword's setting sun had a master, and that the master was an Origin Realm Warrior. When an Origin Realm Warrior was angered, the consequences would not be pleasant. After leaving the Iron Sword Gang, Chu Mu returned to the Windward Inn. He continued to feed the wind-winged demon dragons intermediate demon cores and stored them into the Beast Seal Pearl. After that, Chu Mu began his own training. Although the progress of his sword chi was very slow and he could not feel any improvement after a few days, Chu Mu still persisted in training the 9 transformations of heavenly origin. However, the 9 transformations of heavenly origin was not enough for a chi-high warrior like him. If he wanted to continue improving, he would need to change to a higher level sword chi art. At the very least, it would be a profound level sword chi art. It would be better if he had an earth level sword chi art. In order to directly cultivate the Heavenly Desolation sword mantra, Chu Mu was still persisting on his own path. The reason he didn't use the King level soul devouring pearl was because of the limitations of the sword chi spell. Even if he used the pearl, the effect wouldn't be obvious. Secondly, there might be an Origin Realm Warrior guarding the Windward Inn. Once the pearl appeared, it would cause an abnormal gathering of spirit chi. The King Tier Soul Devouring Pearl was a treasure that even Origin Realm experts would covet. Basic sword techniques were compulsory. Comprehending sword force, concept, and seismic rock energy, cultivating heavenly desolate sword body, cultivating sword techniques, and giving pointers to Luo on his cultivation and sword techniques. Chu Mu's schedule was packed to the brim every day. If he had some free time, he would flip through the human rank ancient sword techniques and earth rank ancient sword techniques he obtained from killing enemies. Though he didn't cultivate them, he could read them and gain knowledge. As the days passed, the title of Sky Sword became especially famous. Many people were looking forward to the battle between Sky Slaughterer and Sky Sword Chu Mu. After the last ancient Heavenly Desolation Pill was consumed, Chu Mu's exposed skin flickered with a layer of yellowish-brown luster. The aura of desolation spread out. Black cracks appeared on the yellowish-brown skin as if it was dry land. After 10 breaths of time, the black cracks seeped into the skin. The yellowish-brown luster gradually dimmed, and the skin returned to normal. From the outside, one could not see any difference from before. However, Chu Mu could feel the changes within. His finger forcefully pressed against the skin on his arm. Chu Mu immediately felt a feeling full of elasticity, as if it was high-quality rubber. A powerful resistance was resisting the force of his finger pressing down. When he released his finger, the sunken skin immediately bounced back and returned to normal. This amazing elasticity would make countless women scream. Even though he did not try it, Chu Mu knew that not only was his skin shockingly elastic and tough, it was also shockingly strong. It was definitely much stronger than before. He took out another low-grade spirit stone. He extended his finger and used the stone's shaking force to touch the low-grade spirit stone. With a bang, the low-grade spirit stone exploded into pieces. Chu Mu's finger was as good as new. It was not injured at all. This was clearly different from before. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Chu Mu flicked his sword chi to open the door. Han Yi walked in anxiously. Brother Chu, something bad has happened. The moment Han Yi opened his mouth, Chu Mu did not understand. What's bad? Chumu asked. The demonic beast riot has begun again. Han Yi immediately said, right now, the swordsmen outside have all returned to the city. They have also set up defenses outside the city. According to the news, the demonic beast army has already gathered at the foot of the chaotic demon mountain. They are ready to attack at any time. Demonic beast riot. Chumu was shocked. He did not know if his luck was good or bad. He actually encountered a demonic beast riot. However, before entering the Demon Shaker city, Chumu had thought that he might encounter a demonic beast riot. This time, according to the information reported by our scouts, the demonic beast army might reach 1 million. It is very dangerous. Brother Chu, now you only have 2 choices. The first is to defend the Demon Shaker city and fight the demonic beasts until the demonic beast army is killed or repelled. The second choice is to leave the Demon Shaker city before the demonic beast army arrives. Han Yi said seriously. Every time a demonic beast riot happens, many people will die. Chumu did not answer. Instead, he asked, what about you guys? The Iron Sword Gang is the Iron Sword Gang of the Demon Shaker city. Naturally, we will stay and die with the Demon Shaker city. Han, you did not hesitate to answer with a resolute tone. An army of 1 million demonic beasts. So far, such a demonic beast riot had only happened once. Although they were lucky enough to repel the demonic beast army, hundreds of thousands of swordsmen had died. It was a great loss. This time, no one had the confidence to repel the army of 1 million demonic beasts. Regardless of whether they could repel the army of 1 million demonic beasts or not, the Demon Shaker city would definitely suffer great losses. No one knew how many swordsmen would die. Even a sword hero rank swordsman couldn't guarantee that he would survive to the end in such a fight. Therefore, Han Yi asked this question. After all, Chumu wasn't a demon-shaking city swordsman. He came from somewhere else. A demonic beast riot is a rare occurrence. Since I am here, there is no reason to retreat. Chumu smiled. Not only was there no fear, there was an unconcealable excitement in his voice. Even Chumu himself could not explain why he was so excited. Good. Han Ye's eyes lit up as he shouted. If Chumu chose to leave, no one would say anything. After all, this was a battle where life and death could not be guaranteed. But in the face of such an unpredictable crisis, he chose to stay. Han Yi felt happy from the bottom of his heart. We may not lose this battle, Han Yi said. He had more sources of information and knew more about the situation. A few days ago, after the demonic beast riot was confirmed, the few venerables in the Demon Shaker city have already sent out the news to the outside world. I believe there will be even more powerful swordsmen rushing over. Chumu nodded and followed Han Yi out of the inn. He wanted to see the current situation. Walking on the street, many swordsmen immediately made way for Chumu because they recognized Chumu's identity. Sky Sword. Chumu glanced around and discovered that the number of swordsmen on the street seemed to be several times more than usual. They seemed to be very crowded, as if they were rushing to the market. Moreover, he smelled a trace of something unusual. He felt that the air was somewhat oppressive, making him uncomfortable and uneasy. It was like the feeling before a storm. He subconsciously raised his head to look at the sky. There were layers of dark clouds. The dark clouds were constantly accumulating, becoming thicker and heavier, as if they were about to crush down. These dark clouds were different from the usual dark clouds. It seemed to be filled with demonic chi. From the conversations that came from time to time, Chumu knew that the demonic beasts on the Demon Shaker mountain had become strange since more than a month ago. They were more violent and appeared everywhere. Combining all these, it was determined that this was the sign of a demonic beast riot. However, they could not be sure at that time. A demonic beast riot was a big deal. If they made a wrong judgment, it would cause a lot of unnecessary trouble. Thus, when the demonic beast army began to gather a few days ago, they were finally 100% sure that a demonic beast riot was about to begin. Thus, all the defensive fortifications against the demonic beast army began to be built. With a boom, a sound came from the direction of the Demon Shaker Mountain, attracting the attention of countless swordsmen in the Demon Shaker City. Immediately after, a strong wave of demonic chi surged over like a wave. Chumu could even see that in the Demon Shaker Mountain, which was very far away from the Demon Shaker City, a terrifying gray demonic chi soared into the sky. The gray demonic chi was like a pillar that pierced through the dark clouds in the sky, causing the already thick dark clouds to become even thicker and heavier. It was like a huge cloud of lead was crushing down. It was so oppressive that it made people feel suffocated. The demonic chi constantly entered the dark clouds, causing the dark clouds to become thicker and heavier at the same time. It created a terrifying pressure on most of the swordsmen in the Demon Shaker City. Most of the swordsmen in the Demon Shaker City were at the Sword Chi Realm and the Chi Transformation Realm. Only a small portion of them were at the Chi Si Realm. This kind of terrifying pressure could only be completely resisted by Chi Si Realm swordsmen. The Chi Transformation Realm swordsmen felt the heavy pressure as if they were carrying a 1,000-pound rock. As for the Sword Chi Realm swordsmen, even breathing became difficult, as if they were about to suffocate to death. At this moment, waves of incomparably powerful auras burst out from every corner of the Demon Shaker City. The auras were like swords that pierced through the void and pierced through the thick, dark clouds. Rumbling sounds were constantly heard as bursts of explosions spread throughout the entire Demon Shaker City. All the swordsmen realized that the terrifying pressure on their bodies had disappeared. Those who had some understanding of demonic beast riots knew that the astral realm experts in the Demon Shaker City were releasing their auras to resist the suppression of the demonic chi in the dark clouds. There were quite a few astral realm experts in the Demon Shaker City. They all released their auras at the same time. Every aura was like a sword that could break through the heavens. The dense demonic chi was instantly shattered, and the thick dark clouds were also shattered by the sword-like auras. In just 10 breaths of time, the dark clouds in the sky above the Demon Shaker City were only left with a few bits of black color. They quickly dissipated, revealing a clear sky. However, the sky outside the Demon Shaker City was still filled with thick dark clouds. They tried to rush into the sky above the Demon Shaker City, but they were all blocked by the auras of the astral realm experts. There was a clear distinction between the two. This situation meant that the attack of the demonic beast army was about to begin. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chijin. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 4:27. The chi of the Origin Realm Warriors was boundless. Together, they continued to resist the demon chi, preventing the dark clouds from reaching the sky above the Demon Shaker City. But in the sky above the Demon Shaker City, the dark clouds were getting thicker and thicker. They were as black as ink, and the violent demon chi was spreading everywhere. Once a human entered the area of the violent demon chi, they would not be able to withstand it for long. They would be affected and become bloodthirsty and violent. If the dark clouds of demon chi were allowed to reach the Demon Shaker City, the swordsmen would lose their minds and kill each other before the demon beast army attacked. A day had passed, and the demon beast army was still gathering. It was getting bigger and bigger, and the demon chi was getting thicker. There were also swordsmen coming from other places in the Demon Shaker City. Although there were not many of them, they were not weak. They were at least at the low Chi High Realm. The Chi High Realm swordsmen that came were basically from the Great Kuin Sword Palace, the 4 Big Sword Sects, the Scattered Sword League, and the Proud Moon Tower. The demonic beast rampage was indeed very dangerous, but at the same time it was also a kind of opportunity. For swordsmen who pursued to become stronger, only by putting themselves in danger would they be able to explode with even greater strength, constantly developing their own potential, making themselves stronger, and walking further on the path of swordsmen. Danger and opportunity always coexisted. With the arrival of these swordsmen, the Windward Inn was full, and the other inns in the Demon Shaker city were also full. Naturally, the history and legends of the Demon Shaker city had spread to the ears of these people, especially Chu Mu, who had been in the limelight recently. Sword Burst-Setting Sun had gotten the title of Heaven Sword and had stayed to live and die with the Demon Shaker city. If it was said that Chu Mu had gotten the title of Heaven Sword before, then he had now gained the recognition of all the swordsmen in the Demon Shaker city. Praise and recognition were two different things. Praise was what others said, and one followed the crowd to say it. One might not think so, but recognition was a form of respect from the bottom of one's heart. When outsiders heard about Chu Mu's deeds, some were very curious, some expressed disdain, and some did not care at all. The stronger swordsmen would often receive invitations from the Demon Shaker city, such as the Red Clothed Association, the Dazzling Dragon Manor, the Flaming Tiger Sect, and so on. Because a large number of swordsmen had returned to Demon Shaker city, and some of the swordsmen from outside had caused the inn to be filled to the brim, those swordsmen of higher status were not willing to share a room with another person. A faction like the Red Coat Association would deliberately make friends with them. With the invitation, they would be able to live well and eat well. Both sides would hit it off immediately. At this moment, there were over 20 black-robed swordsmen gathered in one of the courtyards of the Red Coat Association. These swordsmen were mostly in their 20s to 30s, and judging from the insignia on their sleeves, they were the core disciples of the Moro Sword Sect. Senior Brother Fong, this Red Shirt Society's society master, is really naive. Does he really think that he can bribe us with a banquet and get us to help him solve his problems? A black-robed swordsman in his 20s said in amusement, "That's right. He's really treating us as inexperienced rookies. He's planning to use us as tools." Senior Brother Fong, how do you think we should make this Red Coat Society master suffer a little? Another swordsman in his 20s said. The person who was called Senior Brother Fong looked to be in his 30s. He was quite handsome, and his eyes were especially bright and full of vigor. It was as if they could see through everything, and there was a trace of arrogance between his brows. The Red Coat Association is not worth mentioning. Senior Brother Fong waved his hand and laughed. In his eyes, the Red Coat Association was just a small faction. Compared to the Moro Sword Sect, it was like comparing a firefly to the moon. Even if the Red Coat Association had a primary realm swordsman as their backer, the Moro Sword Sect had countless primary realm swordsmen. There was no comparison between the two. No matter what, the Red Coat Association had treated the Moro Sword Sect's disciples with good food and drinks, and even provided them with decent accommodations. Although they had some ulterior motives, there was no need to be calculative. Senior Brother Fong is so kind. Sky Sword Chu Mu. Senior Brother Fong smiled and frowned. He seemed to be in deep thought. I remember that there was a core mission in our sect that mentioned the name Chu Mu, but I am not sure if it is him. Our sect does have such a core mission. That Chu Mu is a disciple of the Great Kuin Sword Palace's bronze sword ranking. It is said that he has the ability to fight against a lower-level Chi High sword warrior. He is considered a genius. A 30-year-old swordsman in a black robe murmured, "According to the rumors, this Sky Sword Chu Mu has the lower-level Chi High sword Chi, or at least the peak of the Chi High realm. They should not be the same person." They could not believe that in less than half a year, someone could reach the lower-level Chi High realm from the peak of the Chi transformation realm. Junior Brotherly, go out and gather information. Gather as much information as you can about the Demon Shaker city. Also, find out about that Sky Sword Chu Mu as well. See if he is worthy of being called Sky Sword. Senior Brother Fong said. Okay. A 25-year-old swordsman in a black robe who looked smart immediately stood up and left. Sky Sword Chu Mu, is it really you? A figure in a platinum robe stood in front of the window with his hands behind his back. He looked at the bustling crowd outside and said to himself, His tone was full of fighting spirit. His body was not very strong or tall, but he had an extremely domineering aura, as if he was the ruler of the world. This was the first time many swordsmen came to the Demon Shaker City, so they heard all kinds of rumors about the city. They were very curious, especially when they heard about the 4 swordsmen: Sky Sword Butcher, Blood Sword Blaze, Demon Sword Ghost Mist, Sky Sword Chu Mu. Humph. I will let you know that you are nothing. There were also some who did not think much of Chu Mu and the others. They thought that they were just a bunch of swordsmen who were more powerful than the average swordsman. Because of the large number of swordsmen who came from outside and the fact that a large number of swordsmen had returned to the city, the Demon Shaker City was almost overcrowded. Also, because of the huge army of demonic beasts, there were at least 1 million of them. All of these caused the spirits of many swordsmen in Demon Shaker City to be slightly excited. Thus, in just a short day, many conflicts had arisen and many injuries had occurred. There was even a swordsman who used his sword chi and destroyed a shop, resulting in the deaths of 3 innocent people. Of course, this swordsman was also killed by an Origin Realm expert on the spot, serving as a warning to the other swordsmen in the city. At such a crucial moment, they had to be heavy-handed in order to suppress the excited swordsmen. Otherwise, before the demonic beast army arrived, there would be internal strife. The Demon Shaker City would collapse on its own even before the demonic beast army arrived. After Chu Mu finished his cultivation, he went to O Qinglua's room to give him some pointers before returning to his room. He was wondering if he should leave the inn and check out the situation outside. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. It was Han Yi. They could be considered old acquaintances. Chu Mu invited Han Yi into the room. Han Yi did not say anything and directly took out a red sword token and handed it to Chu Mu. Chu Mu did not take it. Instead, he looked at Han Yi with a questioning gaze. "Brother Chu, this is the demon slaughtering sword token. There are only 1,000 of them in the entire Demon Shaker City." Han Yi quickly explained. After listening to Han Ye's explanation, Chu Mu finally understood. It turned out that the demon slaughtering sword token was created by the Origin Realm warriors of the Demon Shaker City in order to motivate the swordsmen to fight against the demonic beast army. The chi of the Origin Realm warriors could cover the entire Demon Shaker City. Thus, they could easily sense the strongest chi of the swordsmen in the city. They ordered their subordinates to gather all the information of these people and make a selection. In the end, they selected 1,000 people and a few candidates. Then, they sent out relevant personnel to deliver the demon slaughtering sword token to the powerful Chi Hai swordsman. The demon slaughtering sword token only had one function, and that was to record the number of mid-ranked demonic beasts killed by the holder. Low-ranked demonic beasts were not included in the list, because low-ranked demonic beasts were not a threat to the powerful Chi Hai swordsman. Why did they use the demon slaughtering sword token to record the number of mid-ranked demonic beasts killed by the Chi Hai swordsman? The reason was simple. The top 10 would be rewarded. When Han Yi said the rewards for the top 10, Chu Mu was also very excited. Even the reward for the top 10 would be enough to make one's blood boil. After thinking for a while, Chu Mu accepted the demon slaughtering sword token. Han Yi felt relieved. Because he was rather familiar with Chu Mu, he had been entrusted with an important task by an Origin Realm expert. He had to give the demon slaughtering sword token to Chu Mu. Although he wouldn't receive any rewards from completing the mission, he wouldn't receive any punishment if he didn't complete the mission. Nevertheless, it was still an Origin Realm expert's request. At the same time, similar situations were happening in other parts of the Demon Shaker City. In the end, all 1,000 demon slaughtering sword tokens were received by the selected Chi Hai swordsmen. First, it was because of the great rewards for being in the top 10. Even a sword hero would be tempted. Second, it was a form of motivation. Think about it. These 1,000 people were recognized by the 5 origin realm warriors of the Demon Shaker City as the strongest 1,000 chi high swordsmen. If one did not accept the demon slaughtering sword token, it would mean that one did not belong to the top 1,000 chi high swordsmen. With the temptation of benefits and the recognition of fame, it was inevitable that the strong swordsmen would have some pride. Even if they did not have any pride, they would still have their pride. Before a real battle was decided, no one would think that they were weaker than the other. The 5 origin realm warriors of the Demon Shaker City also saw this point and used human nature to make the 1,000 strong chi high swordsmen accept the demon slaughtering sword token willingly. After chatting for a while and talking about the gathering of the demonic beast army at the foot of the demon mountain, Han Yi said goodbye. Chu Mu dripped a drop of blood onto the red demon slaughtering sword token. After 3 breaths, there was a weak connection between the blood and the demon slaughtering sword token. Putting the demon slaughtering sword token into his space bracelet, Chumu got up and walked out of the guest room and out of the Windward Inn. Inside the inn, because the Windward Inn was guarded by an origin realm warrior, he did not feel anything. However, once he stepped out of the inn, he could immediately feel the oppressive aura in the air. A storm is coming. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 428. A bugle horn sounded out like a siren, echoing throughout the Demon Shaker City. 5 origin realm warriors exerted their strength, pushing back the thick, dark clouds outside the Demon Shaker City inch by inch until they were 10 miles away from the city. This was the limit. The Demon Beast Army is about to attack. Demon Beasts, I will let you have a taste of my sword. Senior brother, the Demon Beast Army is about to attack. Let's go. Throughout the Demon Shaker City, when the swordsmen heard the bugle horn, they were startled at first. Then, they all rushed towards the city wall with excitement. The city wall facing the Demon Chaos plains could accommodate tens of thousands of swordsmen, but it was still a bit crowded. At this moment, the number of Chi transformation and Chi high swordsmen in the city was not just tens of thousands, but hundreds of thousands. If the sword Chi realm warriors and ordinary people were included, the entire Demon Shaker City had a population of more than 300,000. Theoretically speaking, it was impossible for hundreds of thousands of swordsmen to fight against a 1,000,000 Demon Beast army. Just the Demon Beast army alone was enough to destroy hundreds of thousands of swordsmen. However, the Demon Beast army needed a long time to gather. It would take at least 10 days to half a month. During this period of time, the human swordsmen had enough time to set up many defensive fortifications and make various preparations to deplete the Demon Beast army's strength. At the same time, they could try their best to slow down the Demon Beast army's speed. In addition, with the Demon Shaker City, the swordsmen had the advantage in terms of geography. If the battle really broke out, the final outcome would not be decided until the very end. It was foreseeable that this would be a desperate battle of life and death. It would be a battle of life and death. No one would be able to escape. The city wall of the Demon Shaker City was basically filled with Chi high swordsmen. As for the hundreds of thousands of Chi transformation swordsmen, they were all gathered in the air outside the city gate. They were divided into 3 groups, and each group was a defensive fortification. In a short span of a few days, Demon Shaker City had built 3 defensive fortifications on the Demon Pandemonium Plains. Every fortification was 10 meters tall, and they had set up many reinforced seals. Moreover, numerous fine steel spikes that were over 2 meters long and as thick as a thigh extended forward. It was a terrifying sight. The first fortification was exactly 10 miles away from the Demon Shaker City, and the distance between each fortification was 2,000 meters. The third fortification was 1,000 meters away from the Demon Shaker City. There were tens of thousands of Chi transformation swordsmen gathered behind every fortification. At a glance, it was like a sea of people. Due to the sheer number of people, the sword chi surged into the sky, shattering the dark clouds in the sky. However, the demonic chi in the dark clouds 10 miles away was extremely dense and pure. It came from the demonic chi of the demonic beasts, which was incomparable to the demonic chi of demonic beasts. Only astral realm swordsmen could resist it. Even so, with tens of thousands of chi transformation swordsmen gathered together, their blood boiling as they unleashed their sword chi. The surging waves formed by the surging sword chi spread out and affected everything within dozens of miles. If any sword chi swordsman were to enter the range of this sword chi, they would probably explode and die on the spot. Chu Mu was also standing on top of the Demon Shaker City's city wall and looking forward. Although he could not see the army of demonic beasts, the aura in front of him was gray. It was obvious that the demonic chi was too dense and had dispersed the spirit chi in the air. Within that gray demonic chi, there seemed to be countless dangers hidden within, which made one's heart palpitate. "You are Chu Mu?" A sharp voice came into his ears. Chu Mu turned around and saw a group of black-robed swordsmen squeezing their way over. The one who spoke was a 20-something-year-old swordsman with a protruding mouth and monkey-like cheeks. He was at the small success of Chi High Realm. "What can I do for you?" Chu Mu immediately recognized that these 20-something black-robed swordsmen were the core disciples of the Mo Luo Sword Martial School. He was not afraid at all, and instead responded calmly. "Nothing much. I just heard that you have the title of Sky Sword. I advise you not to be so arrogant. This title is not something you can take on." The monkey-like swordsman said with disdain. Although the other black-robed swordsmen did not say anything, their faces were also filled with disdain. "If you have the ability, then take this title away from me." Chu Mu laughed and said. That disdain shocked the monkey-like swordsman. Then his face turned red with anger. His chi was filled with killing intent, and he had the urge to draw his sword. "Don't be impulsive." A voice sounded. It was a handsome black-robed swordsman with bright eyes. The surrounding black-robed swordsmen all moved aside to let him in. "Sky Sword Chu Mu, are you the one who killed many of our school's disciples?" "So what if I am?" Chu Mu said. He was not afraid at all. With his current strength, even if he was surrounded by 20-something Chi High Realm swordsmen, he was confident that he could escape. "Those who kill will be killed. They accepted the mission to kill you, so it is natural that they would die under your sword." The handsome, black-robed swordsman's words immediately caused Chu Mu to be stunned. The black-robed swordsman's words changed again, bringing with them a bit of a severe coldness. "However, they were all my sex disciples and also my junior brothers. They died under your sword. Those who kill will be killed by others. Your life will be taken by me. I hope you can survive the demon beast rampage. Remember, my name is Fong Hao." After he finished speaking, the group of black-robed swordsmen all laughed and turned around to leave. Chu Mu shook his head slightly. The black-robed swordsman who threatened him had a sword chi at the peak of the Chi High Realm. His chi was very strong and could even be compared to Void Butcher. He was indeed a powerful swordsman, but Chu Mu was not afraid at all. Looking ahead, the thick gray airflow suddenly sped up. After a few breaths of time, a series of slightly chaotic noises could be heard. Then, a slight tremor was transmitted from afar to the Demon Shaker City. The swordsmen standing on the city walls could feel the slight increase in the tremor. The Demon Beast army was attacking. This news not only did not make them feel afraid, it even made the swordsmen's blood boil. Their eyes were shining brightly, and their chi flow suddenly became stronger, like a burning flame. Especially the Chi High swordsmen who came from outside. They were all very excited. What was their purpose in coming here? Wasn't it because of the demon beast rampage? If it was any other time, they would have a better place to train and would not even come here. For the Chi High swordsmen, 10 miles was not far. With their eyesight, they could see everything clearly. The vibration on the ground became stronger and stronger. The rumbling sound came wave after wave, as if thousands of soldiers and horses were galloping. The gray mist became thicker and thicker. The demon chi was like a huge wave. After the first line of defense, the swordsmen all pulled out their swords. They were almost suffocating under the impact of the demon chi, but they were not afraid at all. Instead, they were very excited, as if they had taken a stimulant. Finally, the demon beast army appeared in front of them. In the thick gray mist, one after another, ferocious demon beasts rushed out. Countless gray mist flowed through their bodies like water, making the demon beasts look like tigers that had been released from their cages. The muscles on the bodies of the demonic beasts bulged as if they had swelled up. The demonic chi they exuded was several times more violent than usual. Moreover, the eyes of the demonic beasts had turned blood red. There was not the slightest bit of rationality in them, only madness and bloodthirstiness. For some unknown reason, these demon beasts that were originally able to make decisions based on their instincts now only knew how to charge forward and destroy all obstacles in their way. The ground trembled as the demon beasts trampled on it. The rumbling sound became louder and louder. The terrifying and violent demon chi rushed out. Sand and dust flew everywhere. All the rocks were crushed and turned into dust under the impact. The bloodthirsty and violent roars rolled out like waves. The chi transformation swordsmen at the first line of defense all held their breaths. They all widened their eyes and gripped the hilts of their swords tightly. The veins on the back of their hands bulged. The atmosphere was extremely tense. It was as if the air had frozen. To these swordsmen, they had only heard of demon beast riots. This was the first time they had encountered one. The demon beast army was getting closer and closer. It was impossible to count just how many there were. The sky was filled with dust and gray mist. It was a shocking sight. Kill! When the first wave of the demon beast army was about 100 meters away from the first line of defense, a loud roar rang out from somewhere. It was filled with a dense killing intent. Tens of thousands of chi transformation swordsmen channeled their sword chi into the swords in their hands. The swords buzzed because of the sword chi. The swords were swung, and the sword chi on the swords instantly slashed out. The streaks of sword chi were of various colors and were of different strengths. However, the tens of thousands of sword chi unleashed by the tens of thousands of swordsmen were like a storm that swept out across a 10,000-meter radius. Everywhere it passed, all the sand and stones were turned into dust. The first wave of demonic beasts collided with the tens of thousands of sword chis. The sword chis were shattered, and the demonic beasts were all stunned. Some of the demonic beasts directly exploded into blood and flesh, while some of the demonic beasts were covered with wounds so deep that their bones could be seen. Under the bombardment of the sword chis, they were sent flying and heavily smashed into the demonic beasts behind them. After the first wave of sword chi, the second wave of sword chi arrived, followed by the third wave. After 10 waves of sword chi, another roar rang out. The tens of thousands of chi transformation swordsmen retreated without hesitation. They all used their movement techniques to rush towards the second line of defense. The 10 waves of sword chi killed tens of thousands of demon beasts. The demon beasts behind stepped on the corpses of the demon beasts in front and charged forward. The death of the demon beasts did not scare them. The blood had stimulated their ferocity, making them even more violent. By the time the tens of thousands of chi transformation swordsmen had retreated from the first line of defense, the demon beast army had already crossed 100 meters and charged towards the first line of defense. Rumbling sounds could be heard as the 2-meter-long steel spikes on the fortifications pierced through the bodies of the demonic beasts one after another. Many of the demonic beasts jumped on the steel spikes as if they were candied haws. The bodies of the demonic beasts were so strong that after a few hits, the steel spikes broke off one after another. Even the fortifications, which were 10 meters tall and 5 meters thick and had been reinforced with seals, began to crack under the charge of the demon beasts. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my greatest motivation. Chapter 429. The first line of fortifications cracked under the fearless attacks of the demonic beasts. Countless huge rocks flew up and smashed into the ground. The demonic beast army paid a price of tens of thousands to break through the first line of fortifications. They charged towards the second line of fortifications. The atmosphere was extremely intense. The strong smell of blood was like a storm. The swordsmen were almost suffocating. Their blood was restless, and their fighting spirit was surging. 10 waves of sword chi were shot out. Originally, one sword chi could only cause slight damage to one demonic beast. Now that they were mixed together, they formed a terrifying sword chi storm. Many low-level demonic beasts were immediately killed. The second line of fortifications was also broken under the attacks of the demonic beasts. Only the third line of fortifications was left, except for a few unlucky swordsmen who were crushed to death by the rocks. The rest of the swordsmen gathered behind the third line of fortifications to wait for the demonic beast army. Hundreds of thousands of Chi Transformation Realm swordsmen were all filled with fighting spirit. Their sword chi shot up to the sky as if it was going to pierce through the heavens. The swordsmen at the first and second line of fortifications all took chi restoration pills to recover their sword chi. The swordsmen at the third line of fortifications all shot out wave after wave of sword chi, killing the demonic beasts that were charging towards them. The swordsmen on the city wall were all shocked. They gasped as they looked at the demonic beasts that were rushing towards them like a tidal wave. The violent demonic chi shook the heavens and the earth. When the demonic chi collided with the sword chi, it was like countless balloons exploding. They were unable to use words to describe what they were seeing. In an instant, everyone felt small and insignificant. Facing the army of millions of demonic beasts, an indescribable and complicated feeling rose from the bottom of their hearts. It was like seeing an endless amount of ants in front of them. Furthermore, the demonic beasts were not ants that could be trampled to death with a single step. They were ferocious, dangerous, and terrifying existences. At this moment, any Chi High Realm sword artist had a feeling that they were unable to defend themselves. As long as they were in the middle of this army of millions of demonic beasts, they would be drowned and die under the constant attacks. The ferocious demon aura dispersed the sword chi of more than 100,000 Chi Transformation Realm swordsmen and headed towards the Chi Sea Realm swordsmen on the city wall. In a split second, the bodies of the swordsmen trembled slightly, and a sharp aura rushed out from their bodies, like an illusory sword pointing towards the sky, colliding with the ferocious demon aura that was crushing towards them. If it was only a small number of Chi High Realm sword practitioners, even if they used all of their strength to release their aura, they would not be able to withstand the impact of the violent demonic aura of millions of demonic beasts. However, there were tens of thousands of Chi High Realm sword practitioners here. The combined aura was more than 10 times stronger than hundreds of thousands of Chi Transformation Realm sword practitioners. Vaguely, one could see the raging flames burning on each of the Chi High Realm sword practitioners. The ear-piercing sounds of explosions could be heard continuously. Some of the swordsmen's bodies swayed under the impact of the violent demonic aura, but they gritted their teeth and held on. This was a battle of aura, a battle between the army of demonic beasts and the human swordsmen. Even if they died, they could not retreat. The demon-shaking city did not move an inch under the impact of the violent demonic aura. This city that was specially built to withstand the attacks of the demonic beasts showed its valiant side, standing tall like an ancient mountain. At the moment when the violent demonic aura was at its strongest, the demonic beasts hiding in the disordered demon mountain also released their demonic aura, stirring up the dark clouds. The dark cloud surged and then broke apart. A huge claw formed by the gray demonic aura descended from the sky, fiercely clawing towards the tens of thousands of Chi-High Realm swordsmen on the city wall. Terror descended. This demonic claw was extremely huge. It had 3 claws, and each claw was more than 100 meters long. When it fiercely clawed down, it was as if space itself was being torn apart. The tens of thousands of Chi-High Realm swordsmen only felt that the sky suddenly darkened and an extremely oppressive aura was crushing them. Unable to resist, more than half of the Chi-High Realm swordsmen trembled and spat out a mouthful of blood. They were slightly injured. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Under this huge demonic claw, the tens of thousands of Chi-High Realm swordsmen had a feeling that they could not escape. Once the demonic claw descended, a portion of them would be killed on the spot. Even the sturdy and tall city wall of the demon-shaking city would be destroyed. In that moment of despair, Chu Mu was about to explode with all his sword force to resist the demonic claw's aura. Suddenly, 5 cold snorts sounded out. Immediately after, 5 illusory huge swords formed in the sky above the demon-shaking city and fiercely slashed towards the huge demonic claw. The 5 illusory huge swords were formed by the aura of the 5 origin realm warriors of the demon-shaking city. At their level of training, they could condense their aura to the point where it was visible to the naked eye. Following the appearance of the 5 illusory huge swords, the swordsmen immediately felt that the terrifying aura that was about to crush them disappeared. They all raised their heads and saw the 5 illusory huge swords slashing towards the huge demonic claw. Not only did the demonic claw not dodge, but it fiercely clawed at it. The 5 illusory huge swords nimbly dodged and fiercely slashed at it. After all, the huge demonic claw was not as nimble as the illusory huge swords. Under the continuous attacks of the illusory huge swords, the huge demonic claw was chopped off and turned into a thick, gray demonic aura that dissipated. Chu Mu stared at the 5 illusory huge swords in the sky in a daze. He could feel that the 5 illusory huge swords had a ripple that made his heart palpitate. It was not sword aura, nor was it sword force. It was a terrifying ripple that was above the sword force. Immediately after, the 5 illusory huge swords pierced into the dark clouds in the sky and shattered them. Immediately after, 5 figures shot out from the demon-shaking city and disappeared into the dark clouds, heading towards the disordered Demon Mountain. At the disordered Demon Mountain, waves of powerful demonic aura exploded. 5 Origin Realm warriors had moved out and started a life and death battle with the demonic beasts of the disordered Demon Mountain. Only Origin Realm swordsmen could fight against the demonic beasts. Otherwise, once the demonic beasts attacked, the demon-shaking city would definitely be destroyed and the city would be destroyed. With the Origin Realm warriors defending against the powerful demonic beasts, the swordsmen subconsciously let out a sigh of relief. Their eyes flickered as they looked at the demonic beast army that was surging towards them like a tidal wave. At this moment, the third line of defense had already been broken through by the demonic beasts. More than 100,000 Chi Transformation Realm swordsmen had started a melee battle with the demonic beast army after consuming Chi restoration pills. More than 100,000 Chi Transformation Realm swordsmen could be considered as the fourth line of defense. Its power was more powerful than the previous 3 lines combined. The demonic beast army's attack was temporarily stopped. Sword aura crisscrossed the sword light. The swordsmen's shouts and the demonic beasts' roars resounded. This kind of large-scale battle was different from the small number of battles. No fancy moves were effective. There was only the most direct method of killing. Think about it. There were swordsmen all around while demonic beasts were constantly charging at them. Not only would it be difficult to deal any damage to the demonic beasts, it would even affect the surrounding swordsmen. In the end, it would lead to the deaths of both the swordsmen and the swordsmen. Blood splattered everywhere. Severed limbs and demonic beasts were constantly being killed. At the same time, swordsmen were constantly dying under the claws and teeth of the demonic beasts. It was extremely tragic. A thick smell of blood permeated the air, forming a blood-red mist that spread in all directions. This smell of blood stimulated the demonic beasts to become even more berserk. The swordsmen also became more excited. The battle had already spread to the bottom of the city walls. The dark red ground outside the demon-shaking city was constantly being torn apart by the attacks of the demonic beasts and the swordsman's sword aura. Mud was splattered everywhere, and even more blood seeped into the ground and disappeared. The vanguard of the demonic beast army was made up of low-level and low-tier demonic beasts, from the weakest to the strongest. The 3 lines of defense had killed more than 100,000 demonic beasts. Right now, the ones that were charging here were at least low-level and mid-tier demonic beasts. As the low-level and mid-tier demonic beasts died, the more powerful low-level and high-tier demonic beasts behind them all charged forward and began a massacre. Kill! Some of the Chi-Hai swordsmen on top of the city walls could not stand it anymore. Under the impact of the thick smell of blood, under the impact of the massacre, they could not suppress the killing intent in their hearts. They all shouted out loud and jumped into the air, pulling out their swords. Rays of sword aura that were tens of meters long with different colors fell down like crescent moons. Boom, 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 boom. Thousands of Chi-Hai swordsmen pulled out their swords in the air. Even the shortest sword aura was more than 10 meters long, causing a terrifying amount of damage to the low-level demonic beasts. The sword aura of the Chi-Hai swordsman was more condensed and stronger than that of the Chi transformation swordsman. One ray of sword aura could easily kill a low-level demonic beast. In the blink of an eye, thousands of huge sword auras of the Chi-Hai swordsman had created an irregular space in the middle of the demonic beast army. More than 10,000 low-level demonic beasts had been killed by the sword auras. The demonic beasts behind them immediately rushed forward to fill in the empty space. Thousands of Chi-Hai swordsmen fell into the horde of demonic beasts and began a life-and-death battle. If only a few Chi-Hai swordsmen fell into the horde of low-level demonic beasts, they might be able to kill hundreds, thousands, or even tens of thousands of low-level demonic beasts. But in the end, they would be drowned in the horde of demonic beasts. Thousands of Chi-Hai swordsmen were able to make a huge difference. The horde of demonic beasts continued to charge forward. The thousands of Chi-Hai swordsmen slowly spread out. Because every sword aura contained a huge amount of power, if they got too close, they could accidentally injure others or be injured by others. As they spread out, the damage to the demonic beasts increased dramatically. Every sword aura would kill a few demonic beasts. But at the same time, every Chi-Hai swordsman had to face even more ferocious demonic beasts that did not fear death. Finally, the first Chi-Hai swordsman's protective sword aura was broken. A low-level super-level demonic beast clawed at the swordsman and left a deep wound. The pain caused the swordsman to lose his aim. More demonic beasts rushed forward and killed this Chi-Hai swordsman after sacrificing a dozen demonic beasts. Following the death of the first Chi-Hai swordsman, the second Chi-Hai swordsman was also killed. More and more demonic beast corpses fell to the ground and were trampled into pieces by the demonic beasts behind them. It was a horrifying scene. This was an Azura's killing field. It is time for me to make my move. A Deshang swordsman at the Chi-Hai swordsman squinted his eyes and held the hilt of his sword with one hand. He jumped a few meters into the air and turned his body into an arrow and shot forward. Immediately after, more and more Chi-Hai swordsmen shot forward. Let's see who can kill more demonic beasts. A voice came into Chu Mu's ears. A figure shot forward like lightning. It was the Sky Slaughterer. Chu Mu had a smile on his face. He lightly tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and rushed out of the city wall like a bolt of lightning. He unsheathed his profound star sword. To be continued. If you like this work, You are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 430. Pulling out his sword from the air. The profound star, sword slashed down. With a sharp wind-breaking sound, a 30-meter-long white sword chi left the sword and slashed out. In a blink of an eye, it had crossed hundreds of meters and landed in the middle of the beast army. Cutting sounds were heard. It was like a knife cutting into a pig's bone. Wherever the white sword chi went, dozens of low-level beasts were killed. Their bodies were cut in half and blood splashed everywhere. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Chu-Mu slashed out 3 more times. 3 30-meter-long white sword chi slashed through the air and took the lives of hundreds of low-level beasts again. To a powerful chi high realm sword artist like Chu-Mu, low-level demonic beasts posed no threat at all. Unless they used up all of their sword chi and stamina, no amount of low-level demonic beasts would be able to cause fatal damage to them. The sword chi wings spread out and flapped a few times. Chu-Mu rushed out even further, reaching thousands of meters away. This was already the territory of mid-level low-level beasts. Taking out the monster slaughtering sword token from the space bracelet and hanging it on his waist, Chu-Mu slashed out like a shooting star. After killing a mid-level low-level beast, the rest of the mid-level low-level beasts all rushed towards Chu-Mu. Their mouths were filled with the stench of blood and their claws were cold. They wanted to kill Chu-Mu. Spinning his body, the profound star sword drew a circle. The sword light spread out in a circular arc. The sky origin sword chi mixed with the ripping mentality turned into a light golden ripple. With Chu-Mu as the center, the light golden ripple spread out like lightning. The edges of the light golden ripple were as sharp as the blade of a sword. Wherever it passed, the strong bodies of the mid-level low-level beasts were cut in half. Streaks of blood appeared on their bodies as the beasts were cut in half one by one. The monster slaughtering sword token on his waist suddenly had a layer of red light. It flowed like water. Strands of almost invisible chi flew out from the bodies of the killed mid-level low-level beasts and were absorbed by the monster slaughtering sword token. On one side of the monster slaughtering sword token was the word monster slaughtering. The other side was originally empty, but now there was a number on it, 18. This meant that Chu-Mu had killed a total of 18 mid-level demon beasts. On top of the city wall, tens of thousands of chi-high swordsmen all jumped out and landed in the middle of the army of demonic beasts, engaging in a battle of life and death. Like a tiger in a flock of sheep, these low-level and mid-level beasts were completely defenseless against the powerful chi-high swordsmen. Even if they went berserk and lost all sense of reason and became fearless of death, their attacks were useless. In the end, they became corpses one after another. Kill, kill, kill. This was a feast of slaughter, regardless of whether it was the human swordsmen killing the demonic beasts or the demonic beasts killing the human swordsmen. 1,000 Chi-High Realm sword warriors, who were considered the strongest by the 5 Origin Realm warriors, used their swords to open a path for them. For them, facing this seemingly endless army of demonic beasts was an extremely rare experience. Moreover, they had all obtained the demon slaughtering sword token. The top 10 who killed the most demonic beasts would be rewarded handsomely. These rewards were very tempting to them. There were 1,000 swordsmen participating in the demon slaughtering leaderboard, but there were only 10 places for rewards. It could be said that there were too many monks and too little porridge. Naturally, the competition would be very intense. Not only would the top 10 be rewarded handsomely, it would also determine who was the strongest among the swordsmen. Not everyone could see through fame and fortune. Even the Origin Realm swordsmen valued their reputation. Relying on their own strength and the competition, 1,000 of the strongest Chi-High Realm swordsmen began to dive into the army of demonic beasts. To the army of millions of demonic beasts, 1,000 swordsmen were like stones that fell into a river. They immediately disappeared. In the dark clouds in the sky, There were terrifying explosions from time to time. There were also waves of terrifying aura flashing by. It was the battle between the 5 Origin Realm warriors of the demon-shaking city and the demonic beasts from the demon-shaking mountain. The swordsmen on the ground could not see the battle in the dark clouds, but judging from the aura, they knew that it must be very intense. Luckily, the battle between the Origin Realm swordsmen and the demonic beasts was a few thousand meters high in the sky. Although the shock waves were powerful, after a few thousand meters, they would become very weak. Plus, both sides were worried about killing their own forces, so they deliberately controlled the angle of their attacks. Therefore, they were unable to cause any damage to the swordsmen and demonic beasts on the ground. The profound star sword in Chu Mu's hands perfectly demonstrated the meaning of its existence, a lethal weapon, a weapon of slaughter. Chu Mu did not use the shattering star sword art. In this situation where he was surrounded by mid-rank demonic beasts, the shattering star sword art would not be very effective unless he trained the third move, the shattering star explosion, to the initial level. Unfortunately, there was not enough time. Chu Mu had already trained the first move of the shattering star sword art to perfection. The second move had also reached the level of Desheng, but the third move was only at the entry level. At this time, the profound and unfathomable basic sword technique played an incomparably huge role. The profound star sword brought out a dark and gloomy sword light. Each sword light contained an unparalleled power, and each sword light was bound to break open the body of a mid-level demon beast and take away its life. The number on the demon slaughtering sword token on his waist increased rapidly as Chu Mu killed more and more beasts. Soon, it broke through the 100 mark. Blood dyed the ground red. Countless corpses were piled up under the walls of the demon-shaking city. There were demonic beasts and human swordsmen. Less than an hour had passed since the start of the battle, but the number of dead demonic beasts had already exceeded 200,000. The number of dead swordsmen was also in the tens of thousands. Inside the demon-shaking city, the Chi swordsmen clenched their swords tightly as they stared at the tightly shut city gate. They held their breaths and swallowed their saliva with difficulty. Their hearts were filled with fear. It could be seen from their expressions and eyes. At the same time, under that fear, there was also a trace of determination. It could be believed that once the demonic beasts breached the walls of the demon-shaking city, these Chi swordsmen would definitely pull out their swords and fight with the demonic beasts, even if they would die under the claws of the demonic beasts in the blink of an eye. For them, the demon-shaking city was their home. This was a battle to protect their home. Of course, there was no lack of people who would run away, but that was only a small minority. As far as the eye could see, there were demonic beasts everywhere. The dense and suffocating demonic chi was constantly rushing towards him. Chu Mu felt like he was in a sea of demonic chi. He was surrounded by demonic chi from all directions and could not feel any spirit chi. Fighting in such a situation, the sword chi within the swordsman's body would be constantly depleted, but they would not be able to absorb the spirit chi in the air to recover. Also, the chi-high swordsmen would not be able to use the spirit chi of heaven and earth to increase their attacks or defense. On the contrary, the demonic beasts who were surrounded by the dense demonic chi would be constantly replenished, and their battle prowess would be stronger than usual. Luckily, Chu Mu did not recklessly use the heavenly essence, sword chi, for the sake of a large area of effect. Otherwise, even if he was at the low level of chi high, he would not be able to last for a long time. Like the other 999 strong chi high swordsmen, Chu Mu was also in the midst of the demonic beast army. His goal was the same as the others, but also different at the same time. For the top 10 and the generous rewards, this was the same. As for fame and fortune, it was not within Chu Mu's consideration. For him, it was not essential. Chu Mu's real goal was to improve his sword arts. His understanding of sword arts came from killing. The sword was a lethal weapon, and sword arts were the art of killing. Normally, the practice of sword arts was a process of familiarizing oneself with it. It was also a habit that one had to practice every day. But at Chu Mu's current level of sword arts, if he wanted to improve it, it was not something that could be achieved through hard work. Fighting, killing. Only in a life or death battle could one continue to use the basic sword arts to improve one's basic sword arts. The Profound Star Sword was a top-quality sword, and it was not a normal top-quality sword. It was extremely hard and sharp, and its toughness was amazing as well. It could easily cut open the strong bodies of mid-level demonic beasts. Chu Mu poured the sky, origin sword chi, into the Profound Star sword to form a backflow. This way, he could greatly reduce the consumption of sword chi, allowing his sword chi to last longer in battle. A trace of the power of the ripping concept was also integrated into the Profound Star Sword, causing the blade of the Profound Star Sword to be covered with a faint layer of dark gold. The Sky Origin Sword chi flowed like water at a certain speed, forming a backflow. 1% of the sword force was not used because it was not necessary. Not a single demonic beast could withstand one strike from Chu Mu. He killed his way in like cutting vegetables and melons. The number on the devil slaughtering sword command was constantly changing. It broke through 100, then quickly broke through 200, then 300. Sword, 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 sword. Every sword strike was extremely fast. The sky was filled with sword shadows, so dense that not even a drop of water could escape. Any demonic beast that came close would be immediately killed by the Profound Star Sword. Chu Mu himself did not know where he was in the army of demonic beasts. Right now, all he encountered were mid-level and mid-level demonic beasts. From time to time, mid-level and high-level demonic beasts would appear. Mid-level and high-level demonic beasts were far stronger than mid-level and low-level demonic beasts. As soon as they appeared, Chu Mu immediately felt a trace of threat. But at this time, Chu Mu was very strong. Even mid-level super-level demonic beasts would be instantly killed by his sword. Feeling that he had advanced enough, Chu Mu stopped. The Sky Origin Sword chi mixed with the ripping concept, and 1% of the sword force suddenly spat out a few meters long sword light. With a sweep of the sword, the circular sharp golden ripple spread out again, killing every single demonic beast in the range. Chu Mu then closed his eyes as if he was calming down and brewing. In just one breath of time, even more demonic beasts rushed over. One by one, their sharp claws grabbed at the air, less than 1 meter away from Chu Mu. In the next breath, Chu Mu's body would be torn apart by these sharp claws. In an instant, Chu Mu's eyes suddenly opened. A dark golden sword light shot out from his pupils, piercing through the air in front of him. At this moment, the surrounding time and space seemed to be stagnant, and the speed of the demonic beast's claws slowed down by 100 times. In less than 1/10 of a second, Chu Mu once again thrust out his sword. The Profound Star Sword pierced out at an immeasurable speed, close to the speed of sound. In the blink of an eye, dozens of sword light pierced out like dozens of swords, piercing through the gray demonic chi in the air. Wounds appeared on the heads and bodies of the demonic beasts that were attacking Chu Mu from all directions. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chijian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 431. The Forbidden Zone of Swordsmanship. The first time Chu Mu showed the Forbidden Zone of Swordsmanship was in the Blood Demon Realm. At that time, he was only at the beginning of the Chi Transformation Realm, but his swordsmanship was already unfathomable. Through killing the Blood Demon, Chu Mu made rapid progress in swordsmanship. All of a sudden, he turned his previous accumulation into results. He not only practiced the Forbidden Zone of Swordsmanship, but also reached 3 meters. After that, in the finals of swordsmanship as king, he only saw Huangfu Cangyue show the Forbidden Zone of Swordsmanship. This was the second time Chu Mu showed the forbidden zone of swordsmanship. As long as the evil beasts were 4 meters away from Chu Mu, a dark golden sword light would immediately come and kill them before they could launch any attacks. The forbidden zone of swordsmanship. This meant that Chu Mu's comprehension of the forbidden zone of swordsmanship had improved a little. Once he reached 10 meters and made a breakthrough, it would be the real domain of swordsmanship. However, it was very difficult to improve the forbidden zone of swordsmanship every time. It had been a long time since Chu Mu comprehended the forbidden zone of swordsmanship last time, but he had only improved it to 4 meters. Within 4 meters, he was invincible. Once the sword technique forbidden zone was activated, Chu Mu's entire being was immersed in a strange state. His eyes became extremely calm, without the slightest fluctuation. There wasn't even the slightest emotion in them, causing others to feel their hairs stand on end. His pupils reflected the figures of middle-level evil beasts flying over one after another. Chu Mu's right arm seemed to have disappeared. Soon, a pile of evil beast corpses was piled up 4 meters away. The blood flowed all over the ground and quickly sank into the dark red ground, as if something underground was constantly absorbing the blood. Evil beasts all had natal demonic skills. They would not use them unless they had no other choice. At this moment, if they could, they would definitely use their natal demonic skills. Unfortunately, they had all become violent. Whether it was strength or speed, the berserk demonic beasts were much more tyrannical than normal, at least 30% or even higher. This caused their strength to temporarily increase, but at the same time they also lost their nature, even forgetting to use their natal demonic skills. Otherwise they would not have been killed so easily. The earth trembled because even more demonic beasts were charging from behind. The demonic aura was extremely dense. As the battle progressed, more than 300,000 demonic beasts had died, and more than 50,000 swordsmen had died as well. Demonic beasts began to use their powerful bodies to ram against the city walls, attempting to destroy them. There were a large number of swordsmen gathered at the city gate. Dozens of Chi-Hai swordsmen were guarding the city gate, giving the beasts no chance to break through. Once a demonic beast entered the city, it meant that a second demonic beast would enter the city. At that time, the humans in the city would definitely die under the claws of the demonic beasts, and the demon-shaking city would be destroyed. Once the demon beasts passed through Demon Shaker City, they would enter the territory of the Kuan dynasty and traverse 500 kilometers to arrive at the human gathering grounds. At that time, a large number of humans would surely die, and the living beings would be plunged into misery and suffering. No matter what, this could not be allowed to happen, even if all the swordsmen had to die here. The number on the demon slaughtering sword token at Chu Mu's waist kept changing at an extremely fast speed. It changed every second, and now it had exceeded 1,000. This meant that Chu Mu had killed more than 1,000 middle-ranked demonic beasts. And Chu Mu's sword was still as fast and powerful as before, without any signs of weakening. At this moment, the Sky Desolate sword physique displayed its unparalleled strength. In a sense, the Sky Desolate sword physique had already surpassed the level of a normal body, and had reached a higher level. Even if Chu Mu had not completely mastered the Sky Desolate sword physique, he was only left with the last part. Even if a normal swordsman's body became stronger due to cultivation, it would still belong to the level of a normal body. If Chu Mu had not mastered the 5th and 6th part of the Sky Desolate sword physique, he would feel his arms and body aching. After all, maintaining the speed of sound to kill more than 1,000 demonic beasts was extremely taxing on the body. A normal Chi-Hai swordsman's body would collapse and die under such a burden. In other parts of the densely packed demonic beast army, the powerful Chi-Hai swordsmen were wantonly slaughtering. With their powerful strength, they could kill a normal middle-ranked super-ranked demonic beast in a second. There were simply no demonic beasts that could stop them. Sword light of different colors bloomed in the densely packed demonic beast army, like flowers. Every time, dozens of demonic beasts would die. In terms of killing speed, some of them were even faster than Chumu. Blood Sword Funlai's body was surrounded by an extremely dense blood aura, like a python winding around. The more blood aura there was, the more excited Funlai became. The power of every sword seemed to be increasing. Moreover, every blood aura that surrounded his body contained a terrifying power. It could easily break open the body of a low-ranked, middle-ranked demonic beast and kill it. The ominous Sword Void Butcher's killing speed was not any slower than Blood Sword Funlai's. His teeth were exposed and flashed with a white light. His long and narrow eyes flashed with excitement. As the sword rose and fell, a terrifying, baleful aura spread out and actually dispersed a lot of the dense and violent demonic aura. Every sword strike contained an extremely terrifying, baleful aura, and the tyrannical body of the mid-level demonic beast was as weak as tofu. In another place, a grayish-white fog quickly spread out. In the opposite direction of the grayish demonic chi, there seemed to be a figure floating quickly in the gray fog. Wherever it passed, the demonic beasts would let out cries of agony and be killed like weeds. There was a raging fire. Every sword strike would cause the ground to burn. A large number of demonic beasts died under the raging flame sword. There was 100-meter wide ice seal. Wherever it passed, the demonic beasts would die. Their wounds would be frozen by the ice, and countless ice shards would fall on the corpses. There was a flash of lightning, as if it could split the sky. The strong Chi-Hai swordsmen wanted to kill more demonic beasts to get into the top 10 and get the rich rewards. They all used their true strength. Every sword strike would kill at least a dozen or even dozens of middle-ranked demonic beasts. The numbers on the devil slaughtering sword token at their waists were changing rapidly. Although the devil slaughtering sword token was very mysterious, it had its limitations. It could only sense the presence of middle-ranked demonic beasts. It could not tell the strength of the middle-ranked demonic beasts. No matter if it was a middle-ranked, low-ranked demonic beast, middle-ranked, mid-ranked demonic beast, or middle-ranked, high-ranked demonic beast, or even a super-ranked demonic beast, they were all defined as middle-ranked demonic beasts. Therefore, no matter how strong the demonic beasts were, they would all be counted as one demonic beast. This was a bit unfair because killing a middle-ranked, low-ranked demonic beast would be counted as one demonic beast. Killing a super-ranked demonic beast would also be counted as one demonic beast. But there was no other way. The devil slaughtering sword token was not perfect enough. Some people might think that since it was like this, they might as well just focus on killing middle-ranked, low-ranked demonic beasts. They could kill dozens of demonic beasts with a single strike. Wouldn't it be easy to get first place? Unfortunately, there were not that many middle-ranked, low-ranked demonic beasts. They only made up a small part of the army of millions of demonic beasts. Also, these 1,000 swordsmen all had their own pride. Their pride did not allow them to kill demonic beasts that were as weak as ants. Even if they got into the top 10 and got the rewards, they would not feel good about it. The sword was proud. The swordsmen were also proud. This was not stupidity. It was the spirit of a swordsman. Among the 1,000 strong Chi-Hai swordsmen, there was one person who went the deepest into the army of demonic beasts. It was a swordsman who wore a black robe with countless golden star patterns on it. He was around 30 years old. The sword in his hand was shining with stars. He jumped high into the air and waved the starry sword in the air. He performed a sword technique, and in a split second, stars appeared in a radius of 1,000 meters, shining brightly. There were countless stars in a radius of 1,000 meters. Under the starry sword, they turned into meteors and fell down. Every meteor was the perfect combination of sword chi and mentality. It contained a terrifying power. It was a beautiful sword technique that covered a huge area. Every meteor hit a demonic beast. Demonic beasts that were below middle-ranked or high-ranked could not defend themselves and were killed instantly. Middle-ranked or high-ranked demonic beasts were also severely injured. Even middle-ranked, super-ranked demonic beasts were injured. With just this one technique, hundreds of middle-ranked demonic beasts were killed. The number on the demon slaughtering sword token on the swordsman's waist suddenly increased and broke through the 2,000 mark. He was far ahead of the others. The battle had been going on for more than 4 hours. There were a lot of demonic beast corpses lying on the ground. There were also a lot of human swordsmen's corpses lying around the city walls. The beautiful sword technique of the swordsman attracted a lot of people's attention. They all looked over. After performing this beautiful sword technique, the effect was shocking, but it also consumed a lot of energy. The swordsman's face was pale. He quickly took out some pills to recover his sword chi. He then performed a few huge sword chi attacks in the air and killed all the demonic beasts that were injured. Screech! Suddenly, an ear-piercing screech rang out from afar. Then, a faint golden figure flew over from the direction of the Chaoyao mountain. It was as fast as a bolt of golden lightning. When it first appeared, it was still a few miles away. In the blink of an eye, it was 1,000 meters away. In the blink of an eye, it crossed another few hundred meters. Then, a terrifying sonic boom rang out. It was as if an airplane was flying at a low altitude. It meant that this faint golden figure's speed was much faster than the speed of sound. A terrifying air current rolled out along with the sonic boom. It was as if an invisible sword was cutting through the air. The thick gray air current was all shattered. The faint golden figure's first target was the swordsman in the black starry robe who was still in midair and releasing sword chi to kill the demonic beasts. Die. The swordsman reacted quickly. Every star on his starry sword lit up. He slashed his sword towards the sky. In an instant, it turned into a huge sword light that was surrounded by countless stars and slashed towards the sky. At the same time, the faint golden figure made a strange turn in midair. It dodged the huge sword light and charged towards the swordsman. Under everyone's gaze, the powerful swordsman was grabbed by the sharp claws of the faint golden figure. The faint golden figure also revealed its true form. It was a faint, golden, flying, demonic beast that looked a little like an eagle, but was even more majestic. It's the Thunderwing Golden Rock. Mid-grade, demonic beast overlord. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 432. The light golden figure had a pair of wings that were 10 meters long. The edges of the wings had traces of purple dancing around. That was the power of lightning. A pair of purple gold eyes swept across the crowd with a cold gaze. Anyone who was looked at by this pair of eyes would feel their body tense up and a chill run down their spine. A terrifying aura was emitted from the flying demonic beast's body. It was so strong that it was like a tidal wave that covered a radius of a few thousand meters. The demonic beasts within the radius of a few thousand meters all stopped their charge. The scarlet color in their eyes weakened, and they actually showed signs of waking up from their berserk state. The strong Chi High Realm sword artists who were enveloped by this terrifying aura were all shocked, especially when they saw the flying demonic beast's claws tightly grabbing onto the sword artist. They were all shocked. With a poochie sound, a rain of blood spilled everywhere. The demonic beasts all started to roar. The strong Chi High Realm sword artist who was wearing a black star robe was actually torn apart by the Thunderwing Golden Rock and died a horrible death. He was recognized as one of the strongest 1,000 Chi High Realm sword artists in the demon-shaking city by the 5 Origin Realm warriors, but he was actually torn apart by the Thunderwing Golden Rock. Didn't that mean that the Thunderwing Golden Rock was invincible in the Chi High Realm? No Chi High Realm sword artist could compete with it? Actually, that was not the case. The Star Robe Swordsman had just used a beautiful sword move. This sword move caused a large area of damage, but it also consumed a lot of energy. Plus, the Thunderwing Goldenrock's sudden appearance and powerful strength had caught the Star-Robe swordsman off guard. Just like how there were sword masters among the Chi High Realm sword artists, there were also tyrant demonic beasts among the mid-rank demonic beasts. Compared to sword masters, mid-rank demonic beast tyrant demonic beasts were even rarer. Every mid-rank demonic beast tyrant demonic beast had extremely powerful strength. Only the strong sword masters could compete with them. The weaker sword masters were not their opponents at all. Therefore, when someone shouted out the name mid-rank demonic beast tyrant demonic beast, the sword artists' faces changed. Following that, some of the sword artists let out a smile as their eyes shined brightly. They all looked at the Thunderwing Goldenrock in midair. It was rumored that the Thunder-Winged Goldenrock contained a faint trace of the Golden-Winged Rock's bloodline. A trace of weak meant that it was very, very, very little. However, the Golden-Winged Great Pung was an immemorial divine beast. It was the kind of super terrifying existence that could sweep up a world-destroying storm with a single flap of its wings. Having a trace of its weak bloodline was enough to make a demonic beast extraordinary. This wasn't the main point. What really attracted the swordsman was that the demonic beasts that could become overlords didn't have demonic cores, but demonic cores. What was a Yao core? Only when a demonic beast broke through to become a demonic beast would its demonic core be transformed into a demonic core. However, mid-tier demonic beast overlords possessed a demonic core in advance. This meant that they were at least of the lowest level of demonic beast overlords. Most importantly, the demon core of the Thunder-Winged Golden Rock, which possessed a faint trace of the Golden-Winged Rock's bloodline, also contained a faint trace of bloodline essence. Its value was incomparable, and both demonic beasts and swordsmen wanted to obtain it. If he could kill this Thunder-Winged Golden Rock and obtain its Yao core, even the total reward for the first place on the Monster Slaughter leaderboard would not be able to compare. Many swordsmen were tempted. Their sword chi soared into the sky as they prepared to attack the Thunder-Winged Golden Rock. However, they didn't attack immediately. Instead, they were looking for an opportunity. Because the Golden-Winged Rock was the fastest existence in the world, the Thunder-Winged Golden Rock, which possessed a faint trace of the Golden-Winged Rock's bloodline, also possessed an unparalleled speed that surpassed all mid-tier demonic beasts. Even many high-tier flying demonic beasts couldn't compare with it in terms of speed. Suddenly, a huge roar shook the heavens and earth. It turned into a torrential wave that surged over. Following that, a huge figure that was at least 10 meters tall rushed over from afar. Wherever it passed, all the demonic beasts in its path were sent flying. This was a completely black bull that was as large as a small hill. The muscles on its body were very obvious. Its huge spiral-shaped horns seemed to be able to pierce through the sky. Its eyes were completely red, and unlike the scarlet eyes of the berserk demonic beasts, they were very pure like rubies. 2 streams of white smoke were spat out from his nostrils like steam. A heavy and fiendish aura was continuously emitted from his huge and incomparably strong body. With just a slight movement, the surrounding air rippled like water. It was another mid-tier demonic beast overlord, Black Mountain Bull. The Black Mountain Bull also possessed a faint trace of the immemorial demonic beast demonic mountain bull's bloodline. The demonic mountain bull was different from the golden-winged rock. It was known for its tyrannical body. With just the strength of its body, it could easily shatter the void and shake the heavens and earth. It was very terrifying. As for which was stronger between the demonic mountain bull and the golden-winged rock, it wasn't clear. After all, immemorial demonic beasts and immemorial divine beasts belonged to the same level. They only existed in legends, and there was no way to verify it. After a while, the third mid-tier demonic beast overlord also appeared. It was a huge silver wolf. The size of the silver wolf was only half the size of the black mountain bull. Its body wasn't as strong, but it was more agile. Its silver fur was very soft, and as it ran, it was like a burning silver flame. Its eyes were dark green, like flawless gems. The silver dipper demonic wolf possessed a faint trace of the immemorial divine beast Silvermoon wolf's bloodline. In terms of speed, it wasn't as fast as the golden-winged roc, and its body wasn't as tough as the demonic mountain bulls. However, it was born with an attack that could tear through everything. Even the demonic mountain bull's tough body couldn't withstand it. Following that, the sound of the earthquake was like the beating of a huge drum. A huge figure that was like a mountain slowly moved forward. Everywhere it passed, the demonic beasts would retreat. Any demonic beasts that couldn't retreat in time were all crushed under the impact of this huge figure. Their bodies were smashed into pieces. Even if this figure was bent, it was still at least 20 meters tall. It was like a skyscraper that stood between the heavens and earth. It was a huge ape. This huge ape's fur was silver gray. Its body was even stronger than the black mountain bull's. The muscles on its body were like rocks and steel. It was filled with terrifying strength and contained shocking, explosive power. Its eyes were black, even darker than a human's. It was incomparably deep, as if it could absorb all light. The mountain-splitting ape contained a faint trace of the immemorial divine beast demon ape's bloodline. In terms of speed, it wasn't as fast as the golden-winged roc. In terms of sharpness, it wasn't as sharp as the silver moon wolf. In terms of toughness, it was slightly weaker than the demonic mountain bull. However, it possessed unparalleled strength. For a total of 4 mid-grade demonic beast overlords appeared. Each of them was emitting a different but equally powerful aura. That aura swept out in all directions, pushing away the dense, gray, demonic chi. It formed countless cyclones that crazily rotated within a radius of 10,000 meters. Because of the appearance of the 4 mid-grade demonic beast overlords, the violent demonic beast army actually stopped their charge. They all stopped moving and prostrated themselves in the surroundings like subjects that had seen their king. The scarlet color in their eyes gradually faded, and they gradually left their berserk state. The 4 mid-grade demonic beast overlords were 1,000 meters away from each other. They were almost lined up in a straight line. The terrifying aura they emitted covered a radius of 10,000 meters, which immediately brought a huge pressure to the human swordsman. A strange scene appeared. The demonic beasts and the human swordsmen were clearly separated. On one side, the human swordsmen were scattered in different locations. Some were very close to each other, some were very far away, some were gathered with many people, and some were completely empty. On the other hand, the demonic beast army retreated behind the 4 mid-grade demonic beast overlords. The scarlet color in their eyes completely disappeared. Every demonic beast was silent and didn't make any sound. At this moment, it was as if they had become a disciplined demonic beast army, waiting for the orders of the 4 demonic beast overlords. Although their strength and speed had decreased by at least 30% after leaving their berserk state, it was different from the chaotic charge from before. It was as if they had become a trained formation. Once they charged again, their power would be much stronger than before. The demonic beasts hadn't attacked yet, and the swordsmen had already begun to gather their troops. The ground was filled with blood. Countless intact or broken corpses were scattered everywhere. Broken limbs were everywhere, and it looked like an Azura killing field. It was a ghastly sight. Even a seasoned swordsman like Chu-Mu had a slight change in expression when he saw the scene. The indescribably dense smell of blood made them feel nauseous. The demonic beast corpses and the human swordsmen's corpses were mixed together. It was like a corpse dump. When the thunder-winged golden roc appeared, Chu-Mu was forced out of the sword technique Forbidden Zone by its tyrannical aura. He felt that it was a pity. After entering the sword technique Forbidden Zone, as he killed more and more demonic beasts, Chu-Mu gradually entered a deeper state. In that state, everything around him seemed to disappear. His sword technique also began to improve in this state, and he also began to comprehend a new sword technique. The 4-meter sword technique, Forbidden Zone, increased again, reaching the 5-meter sword technique, Forbidden Zone. If this state continued, Chumu wasn't sure if his sword technique, Forbidden Zone, could break through to the 6-meter sword technique, Forbidden Zone. Even if it couldn't, it would definitely reach the peak of the 5-meter sword technique, Forbidden Zone. Unfortunately, the appearance of the mid-level demonic beast overlords interfered with him, causing him to break out of that wonderful state when his sword technique, Forbidden Zone, reached the 5-meter sword technique, Forbidden Zone. Even his deeper comprehension was interrupted halfway. Exhaling, Chumu dispersed the unhappiness in his heart. He glanced at the 4 mid-level demonic beast overlords that were emitting a terrifying aura. A trace of battle intent appeared in his eyes. Then that battle intent rapidly spread out like a spark in a prairie. It burned fiercely, filling his pupils and spreading to his eyes in the blink of an eye. An incomparably powerful aura erupted from his body, transforming into an invisible force that shot into the sky. The surrounding gray mist was all shattered and disappeared. Chumu's battle intent was so powerful that it instantly attracted the attention of the 4 mid-level demonic beast overlords. They looked over one by one, and each of their gazes contained a terrifying pressure. Chumu's body trembled uncontrollably, almost collapsing. Perfect sword force enveloped his body, resisting the terrifying aura of the 4 mid-level demonic beast overlords. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 433. Originally, the human camp had over 150,000 Chi transforming realm swordsmen and over 30,000 Chi high swordsmen. However, after the fierce battle with the demon beast army for 4 to 6 hours, there were only 80,000 Chi transforming realm swordsmen and less than 90,000 Chi high swordsmen left alive. In just 4 to 6 hours, 70,000 Chi transformation realm swordsmen and close to 10,000 Chi high realm swordsmen had died. It was extremely tragic. 70% of the surviving swordsmen were injured. The seriously injured could barely stand, while the lightly injured could still fight the demonic beasts with all their might. Most of the swordsmen were covered in blood. Most of the blood belonged to the demonic beasts, and some of it was their own. After the continuous high-intensity battle, the swordsmen immediately woke up from their excitement. They immediately felt that their entire body was sore and weak. The arm that was holding the sword felt extremely uncomfortable, as if it was dislocated. They wished that they could just cut off their own arm and be done with it. If the demonic beast army attacked again, most of the swordsmen would not be able to use their full strength. The death rate would be even higher than before. On the side of the demonic beast army, more than 600,000 demonic beasts had died. Now, there were only 300,000 demonic beasts left. Among these 300,000 demonic beasts, tens of thousands of demonic beasts were heavily injured, and close to 100,000 demonic beasts were lightly injured. Light injuries did not have much effect on the demonic beasts. They could still use their full strength. If not for the appearance of the 4 middle-tier demonic beast overlords, the demonic beasts would have broken out of their berserk state. If the demonic beasts continued to attack, it was possible that the swordsmen would have died before the demonic beasts died. This situation allowed the swordsmen to let out a sigh of relief. No matter what, they had finally obtained some time to rest. The swordsmen all took out their pills. At this moment, they did not care if the pills were precious or not. The most important thing was to stay alive. The monstrous sword aura surged. 4 terrifying auras crushed the sword aura, causing the sword aura to almost collapse. With the support of his strong willpower and unparalleled essence, Chumu's sword aura was like a tempered sword embryo. It became purer and more condensed as it improved by a little bit. Roar, The mountain-splitting ape's huge fists pounded on its chest, making loud banging sounds. The surrounding air vibrated and ripples spread out. The swordsmen, thousands of meters away, felt as if their hearts were being pounded, almost bursting. It was extremely uncomfortable. The white steam spewed out of the black mountain bull's nostrils became even denser. When it hit the ground, it immediately exploded. The silver dipper demon wolf's sharp claws lightly slashed, and 3 cold lights seemed to split open the void. The purple lightning on the thunder-winged goldenroc's wings became denser and crazily jumped. They possessed the bloodline of the ancient divine beasts and devil beasts. Although it was only a trace of a weak bloodline, it was enough to make them extremely powerful. At the same time, they also possessed intelligence that ordinary demonic beasts did not have. From Chumu's body, the 4 demonic beast overlords felt a trace of threat. It wasn't that Chumu could kill them now, but Chumu's potential was too high. Once he matured, he could endanger their lives. It was in their nature to kill enemies that threatened them. The 4 demonic beast overlords all rushed towards Chumu. The other swordsmen's faces all changed, and they quickly drew their swords. It wasn't that they wanted to help Chumu. It was their pride that made them draw their swords. The 4 demonic beast overlords didn't care about them at all. They all wanted to fight Chumu. Didn't that mean that they were weaker than Chumu? In the eyes of the strong Chi-Hai realm swordsman, Chumu was only at the lower Chi-Hai realm. His strength was only comparable to a peak Chi-Hai realm swordsman. Although he was strong, it was not enough to make them admit defeat. Some of the strong Chi-Hai realm swordsmen even thought that they could easily defeat Chumu. If that was the case, how could they be willing to fall behind? The swordsmen used their powerful sword moves, and the sword light pierced through the sky towards the 4 demonic beast overlords. These attacks made the 4 demonic beast overlords feel threatened. They all gave up on Chumu and turned around to deal with the humans who dared to attack them. The Thunderwing Goldenroc's speed was unparalleled. It disappeared with a swoosh and appeared on top of a strong Chi-Hai realm swordsman. With a light flap of its wings, 2 purple lightning as thick as an arm struck down from the sky. Not only did the Thunderwing Goldenroc have unparalleled speed, it also had the ability to control lightning. It was very powerful. The swordsman's sword missed, and a shadow appeared above him. Following that, 2 powerful lightning strikes struck down, causing the swordsman's face to change color and his hair to stand on end. Just as he was about to use his movement skill to dodge, the 2 lightning strikes struck down and tore apart the swordsman's protective sword chi. Even the top rank armor on his body was shattered. A horrible scream was heard. The strong Chi-Hai realm sword warrior was struck by 2 lightning bolts, and his body was charred black. Black smoke kept coming out of his body, but he was not dead yet. However, another lightning bolt struck him and blew him into pieces. In just a breath's time, a strong Chi-Hai realm swordsman was killed by 3 lightning strikes from the Thunderwing Goldenroc. This scene made the hearts of the swordsmen twitch. Another strong Chi-Hai swordsman was smashed to death by the Black Mountain Bull. His body was torn into pieces. Another 2 strong Chi-Hai swordsmen were torn apart by the claws of the Silver Gale demon wolf. Another one was smashed into a meat patty by the mountain-splitting ape's huge palm. The 4 demonic beast overlords showed their terrifying strength as soon as they attacked. It was no wonder that only the strong sword masters could fight against them. "Let's work together and kill them," a Chi-Hai realm swordsman shouted. At this moment, they all knew that none of them could fight against the 4 demonic beast overlords one-on-one. Just look at what happened to the 4 demonic beast overlords. Instant kill. Maybe 2 or 3 of them had the strength of a sword master, but there were also differences between sword masters. The strong sword masters could easily defeat the weak sword masters. The strength of these 4 demonic beast overlords could only be matched by the strong sword masters. In this situation, the only way was to work together. Once they decided to work together, the swordsmen all used their movement skills and moved quickly. There were originally 1,000-strong Chi High Realm swordsmen, but now there were only 990 left. The 990-strong swordsmen were quickly divided into 4 groups. Each group had more than 200 swordsmen attacking a demonic beast overlord together. More than 200 strong Chi High Realm swordsmen attacking together was very powerful. But the 4 demonic beast overlords were even more powerful. They all had their own ways to deal with the attacks. The thunder-winged golden rock's speed was unparalleled. With a swoosh, it disappeared, causing all the 200 attacks to miss. The black mountain bull's body shook and a black ripple spread out. A layer of black light appeared on its skin, and all the attacks were destroyed. The black mountain bull was not hurt at all. The silver gang demon, Wolf's body, moved quickly. It was hard to tell which one was the real one. It dodged all the sword attacks, and at the same time, it used its claws to destroy the sword attacks that it could not dodge. The mountain-splitting ape roared towards the sky. The invisible sound waves spread out rapidly, and the surrounding air became as thick as water. The giant palms opened up. Each palm was like a black cloud that covered the sky. Under the palm's attack, the air was pushed out, and there were explosions. Waves of invisible ripples spread out rapidly from the center of the palms. That was the pure, demonic power of the mountain-splitting ape condensed in the center of the palms. The speed of the palms was slow and heavy like a mountain. The enormous power contained in the palms caused the sound of tsunamis. All the different colored sword attacks were destroyed by the giant palms. The giant palm slammed into the ground. When it was more than 10 meters away from the ground, the terrifying wind pressure caused the ground to collapse. Countless cracks spread rapidly with the 2 points as the center, spreading in all directions. The ground sank by several meters. With a loud boom, the earth shook. The mountain-splitting ape's palms slammed into the collapsed ground. Kacha, 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 kacha. Incessant sounds could be heard. Cracks as thick as thighs rapidly spread forward like pythons. The sand, stones, and dust on the ground were all shattered by the huge vibrations and shot into the sky. Invisible ripples spread out, and the swordsmen in the range of the vibrations all felt that they could not stand steadily. Kill! Although the first move had failed, these swordsmen were all powerful and resolute. They would not be shaken by this and launch another attack. After having a general understanding of the attacking methods of these for middle-grade demonic beast overlords, the swordsmen no longer held back. They all brought out their tyrannical strength, some attacking from afar, while some engaging in close combat. The mountain-splitting ape that was more than 20 meters tall when it stood upright was like a skyscraper. The attacks of the swordsmen were like tickles to it. At most, they would leave a small wound on its body. Not only did they not really injure the mountain-splitting ape, but they also angered it and made it even more violent. Under the attack of the giant palms, the surrounding ground collapsed into ruins. However, its body was huge and its speed was slow. If the swordsmen were prepared, the damage it caused would be limited. The black mountain cow's body was the strongest. Furthermore, its demonic power formed a demonic aura shield that was distributed on its skin. No matter how the swordsmen attacked, it was hard to cause any damage. Luckily, the black mountain cow only had a strong body, but it did not have many attacking methods. As long as the swordsmen were on guard against its iron hooves, they would basically not be hit. On the other hand, the Silver Gale demonic wolf was very fast and agile. Its attacks were extremely sharp, and there was nothing it could not break. Although its body was not as tough as the mountain-splitting ape and the black mountain cow, and 3 half-meter-long wounds were left on its body by the swordsmen, it had already killed more than 20 swordsmen. With a wave of its claws, it was so fast that no one could react. 3 cold lights pierced through the air, and another swordsman was caught by the cold light. The protective sword chi was like nothing, and the upper-grade armor on his body was as fragile as tofu. His body was directly torn apart by the 3 cold lights, and blood splattered everywhere. The thunder-winged golden rock in the sky was the most difficult to deal with. Its unparalleled speed caused the swordsman's attacks to miss, and the advantage of flying forced the swordsmen to use their flying secret arts. To the swordsman, the flying secret arts only provided them with the ability to fly. It could not be used as an aid in battle. Furthermore, because they were in mid-air, they could not use their full strength. With their weakness against the opponent's strength, they were immediately at a disadvantage. The thunder-winged golden rock controlled the lightning to strike down. More than 10 swordsmen had already died under the terrifying power of the lightning strikes, and 3 had died under the thunder-winged golden rock's sharp claws. This time, the thunder-winged golden rock's target was Chu-Mu, and it charged over in an instant. Without any hesitation, Chu-Mu immediately used the 3rd level of the heaven-traversing space technique. With a whoosh, his body exploded into hundreds of shadows that rushed in all directions. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chijian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 434. Golden light shot out and smashed one of the phantoms. 98 of the 99 phantoms disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chu-Mu appeared again, his face slightly pale. This was the 3rd level of the heaven-traversing secret technique. Phantom crack. As the name suggested, the body would produce many phantoms that would rush in all directions. It would look like the body had exploded into 100 phantoms, and one of them was the real body. However, because the phantoms were too fast and had a certain degree of confusion, it was difficult to distinguish the real from the phantoms. It was an excellent dodging technique, and it was also an excellent counterattack technique if used properly. It was the first time that someone had been able to dodge the Thunderwing Golden Rock's attack. The Thunderwing Golden Rock let out a sharp cry and flapped its wings. A thunderbolt appeared above Chu-Mu and struck down. Chu-Mu felt his scalp tingle and his hair stand on end. Before he could think, his body had already reacted instinctively and quickly moved to the side. Just a small step away, a purple thunderbolt as thick as an arm struck down from the side. Chu-Mu's protective sword Qi was affected and shattered. The protection of the feathered armor was not activated in time. Half of his body felt numb from the electric shock. At the same time, the 4 swordsmen released their sword moves. They rushed toward the Thunderwing Golden Rock like flood dragons and torrents. The Thunderwing Golden Rock did not have strong defensive abilities like the mountain-splitting ape and the black mountain bull. Once it was hit by the 4 sword moves, it would definitely be injured. Its body flashed and disappeared into a golden light, causing the 4 attacks to miss again. The Thunderwing Golden Rock was too fast. Even Chu-Mu's perfect vision sword could only capture a vague figure. It was very difficult to lock onto the Thunderwing Golden Rock and hit it. How could they fight without locking onto it? In theory, more than 200 swordsmen could easily kill the Thunderwing Golden Rock. The problem was that they could hit it. However, the Thunderwing Golden Rock was too fast and could not be hit at all. It also had the ability to control thunder and lightning. Its attack power was terrifying. Up until now, the Thunderwing Golden Rock had not been injured at all. However, nearly 20 of the 200 swordsmen had died. The swordsmen, watching from afar, were trying their best to recover as they watched the battles around them with wide eyes. They were extremely nervous. The 300,000-strong demonic beast army was also watching the battle between the 4 mid-grade demonic beast overlords and the human swordsmen. Without orders, they wouldn't attack. The tall mountain-splitting ape stood there unmoving, using its powerful body and its pair of palms to fight against more than 200 swordsmen. The 200 swordsmen were unable to do anything to it, and it had instead killed nearly 10 of them. As the saying went, enough ants could bite an elephant to death. Under the combined attacks of over 200 swordsmen, more and more wounds appeared on the mountain-splitting ape's body. although each wound was very small compared to its body. When there were so many wounds, the mountain-splitting ape still felt waves of pain as blood flowed out. The black mountain bulls rushed here and there, shaking their heads and horns. The swordsmen all used their movement techniques to dodge and counterattack, but the black mountain bull's defense was too strong. At most, their attacks only left white scratches on their bodies, unable to cause any damage. Similarly, only 3 swordsmen were killed by the black mountain bulls. The number of swordsmen that died to the silver dipper monstrous wolf's claws was the most. There were already 32 of them. Its sharp claws were indestructible and extremely fast. As long as one was locked onto, it was almost impossible to dodge. Fortunately, the silver dipper monstrous wolf's defense was far inferior to the black mountain bulls, and its speed was far inferior to the thunderwing golden rock. There were 8 wounds on its body, and each of them was dripping with blood. This began to affect the silver dipper monstrous wolf's movements, causing its speed to decrease. Chu Mu took a pill to recover his sword chi. The previous slaughter had used up a small portion of his sword chi. Using the heaven-traversing secret technique's 3rd level, Phantom 100 Crack, had used up a large amount of sword chi. With his current cultivation, he could only use it 3 times at his peak. Now, Chu Mu's remaining sword chi was only enough for 1 Phantom 100 Crack. He had to take a pill to recover as soon as possible. The Thunderwing Golden Rock's speed is too fast. Whether it's using the stone-shaking wave sword or the space-splitting sword, it's hard to hit it. The best time to attack is when it's close to me. Chu Mu's eyes shone brightly as he stared at the rapidly moving golden light. The Thunderwing Golden Rock could cover a distance of several dozen meters in an instant. With such speed, even the space-splitting sword, which was extremely fast, could not lock onto it. Therefore, if he wanted to injure or even kill the Thunderwing Golden Rock, the only way was to get close to it. Moreover, there was only one chance. With the Thunderwing Golden Rock's intelligence, it kept making the same mistake. This time, let's try out the power of my new sword technique. Chu Mu thought to himself. He took a deep breath and stared at the Thunderwing Golden Rock without blinking. He focused his mind, and everything around him disappeared. There was only the constantly moving golden light in his eyes. The benefits of having a powerful soul showed once again. Chu Mu quickly entered a special state. This state had a name, hyperfocus. In this state, there was only a target in his eyes. His thoughts became clearer than ever, and his vision was pushed to the limit. Everything that could be captured was captured by his eyes. Time passed bit by bit. The golden light's movement seemed to have slowed down. The moving tracks formed tiny golden lines that connected together and appeared in Chu Mu's eyes. The space in front of him seemed to be a world of countless tiny golden lines. They crisscrossed without any pattern. Chu Mu's eyes fell on the golden light and followed its high-speed movement. In an instant, the golden light changed direction. Chu Mu suddenly realized that the Thunderwing Golden Rock's target was him. As soon as he thought of this, the golden light had already rushed toward Chu Mu. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Chu Mu. The highly focused mind and powerful soul power made Chu Mu's vision clearer than ever. He could even see the dust in the air. In his eyes, a pale golden Thunderwing Golden Rock was rushing toward him at an indescribable speed. Its sharp claws were open, and the cold light on the claws was clear and dazzling. Because it was so fast, the sharp claws seemed to tear the space apart, leaving tiny scratches. In the 100th of a second, Chu Mu didn't even think. He instinctively reacted in minute subtlety. The sword aura wings on his back didn't move. Instead, he relied on the vibration of his muscles to move 3 feet in the air, narrowly dodging the thunder-winged Golden Rock's sharp claws. Sword. It was impossible to describe the magnificence of this sword because Chu Mu had just slashed out. Its speed was not fast or slow, and it was very even. It maintained the same speed from the beginning, as if it would be maintained until the end. With a sharp sound, The sword slashed through the air, leaving a faint black shadow. The black shadow emitted a frightening aura, as if a layer of skin had been peeled off. A strong sense of danger welled up in the Thunderwing Goldenrock's heart. This was the first time it had felt this way when facing a human. It suddenly flapped its wings, and its speed instantly increased by 30%. It rushed forward and was about to escape the attack range of this sword. As if it had sensed the Thunderwing Goldenrock's outburst, the speed of the sword suddenly increased by several times. It slashed through the air, and a faint black shadow spread out like an ink painting. An extremely terrifying power condensed on the sword, but it did not emit any fluctuations. It was as if the terrifying energy had squeezed into the sword and become a part of it, causing the sword to undergo an indescribable change. The weight of the sword seemed to have increased by 3 times. Like a stream of light, the sword slashed horizontally. Following that, an incomparably sharp scream resounded throughout the world. The thunder-winged Goldenrock suddenly flapped its wings, and its speed increased a little. It transformed into a golden bolt of lightning and shot forward. A few drops of blood dripped down, and a broken claw fell down. Chu Mu picked up the claw with the tip of his sword. It was very big. The Thunderwing Goldenrock had 2 claws, and now that one of them had been cut off by Chu Mu, it was severely injured. Surprisingly, the injured Thunderwing Goldenrock did not fight back. Instead, it turned into a golden lightning and flew towards the direction of the Chaoyao Mountain. In the blink of an eye, there was only a small golden dot left, and then it turned into a black dot. An ear-piercing sound was heard, and the terrifying airflow made the surrounding swordsmen stagger and almost fall to the ground. These swordsmen were all stunned. It was as if their brains had rusted and they could not react. After 3 breaths, some of the swordsmen finally woke up. It was obvious that the powerful Thunderwing Goldenrock had escaped. Yes, the terrifying Thunderwing Goldenrock that had killed more than 20 Chi-Hai swordsmen had escaped. At this moment, all of the Chi-Hai swordsmen in the sky looked at Chu Mu. Their eyes were filled with confusion and a trace of respect. With their eyesight, they couldn't clearly see what happened in that instant because the thunder-winged Goldenrock was too fast. Chu Mu's horizontal slash seemed ordinary, neither fast nor slow, but in reality it was extremely fast. Otherwise, how could it have hit the thunder-winged Goldenrock? Although they did not see it, the 100 swordsmen understood that the Thunderwing Goldenrock had escaped because of Chu Mu. The few drops of blood in the air and the broken claw in Chu Mu's hand were enough to prove this point. Therefore, while they were surprised and confused, they also had a trace of respect for Chu Mu. The Thunderwing Goldenrock's shrill cry was also heard by the other 3 middle-ranked beast overlords. Even the hundreds of Chi-Hai swordsmen and other swordsmen could hear it. They all looked up to the sky and saw the Thunderwing Goldenrock's back as it flew away. They were all stunned. The Silver Gale Monster Wolf, Mountain-Splitting Ape, and Black Mountain Bull were even more surprised. Although they were intelligent, they could not understand what was happening in front of them. They did not see the collision between the Thunderwing Goldenrock and Chu Mu, nor did they see Chu Mu's sword slash. Thus, the 3 middle-class overlords didn't understand why the thunder-winged Goldenrock wanted to leave. However, the 3 middle-class overlords' intelligence told them that the situation wasn't good and they already had thoughts of retreating. Especially when they saw the broken claw in Chu Mu's hand, they understood that this human probably had the ability to injure them. Immediately, the 3 mid-level overlords roared. The army of demonic beasts behind them also roared and started to move again. They madly rushed forward and launched another assault. The beast army rushed past the 3 middle-ranked beast overlords and charged towards the swordsmen without fear of death. The 3 middle-ranked beast overlords quickly retreated. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chijian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 435. The thunder-winged Goldenrock was too fast. It disappeared in a blink of an eye. The other 3 middle-ranked beasts were not as fast as the thunder-winged golden roc. The silver dipper demon wolf was the fastest. It also ran away quickly, its speed making it hard for the swordsman to catch up. If the swordsmen tried their best to catch up, they might be able to catch up with the black mountain cow and the mountain-splitting ape, but it would be very difficult to kill the black mountain cow and the mountain-splitting ape. Now, the army of over 300,000 beasts attacked again. Each of the beasts had at least the strength of a middle-ranked beast. The main force was middle-ranked, high-ranked beasts. Tens of thousands were middle-ranked, super-ranked beasts, and a few thousand of them were strong middle-ranked, super-ranked beasts. Facing the charge of these strong middle-ranked beasts, especially when these middle-ranked beasts were not in a berserk state, a small number of them used their innate demon skills. The innate demon skills of the middle-ranked beasts were very powerful. Under the bombardment of cannon fire, 2 strong Chi High Realm swordsmen were killed immediately. Helplessly, the remaining 900 strong Chi High Realm swordsmen could only see the backs of the 3 middle-ranked beasts as they left. They turned their attention to the army of beasts. Thunder and fire were like dragons. Even if only a small number of middle-ranked beasts used their innate demon skills, there were still thousands of them. Every single one of them was more powerful than an Earth-level ancient sword art. Once hit, there was an 80% chance of death. Under the attack of the beast's innate demon skills, a few strong Chi High Realm swordsmen were killed. Luckily, the beast's eyes turned red again, and they went into a berserk state. Their strength and speed increased greatly, but none of them used their innate demon skills. Those who used their innate demon skills had their strength and speed decreased significantly. Even if they went into a berserk state, there was no increase in their strength. More than 100 people had died, but none of the 4 tyrant beasts had died. This was a huge blow to the 1,000-strong Chi High warriors. All of a sudden, the Chi High warriors were enraged and they vented their anger on the army of beasts. After Chu Mu took a few pills to recover his sword chi, he did not rush to attack. Instead, he stayed in the air and waited for the pills to recover his sword chi. This would take some time. With a wave of his hand, the Thunderwing Golden Roc's broken claw was stored in his spatial bracelet. Although he did not know what it was used for, it was at least a spoil of war. He took the time to look at the demon slaughtering sword command at his waist. The number on it was more than 1,500, indicating that more than 1,500 mid-level demon beasts had died under Chu Mu's sword. It will be difficult to enter the top 10 with this result. Chu Mu frowned slightly. He did not dare to hope for the first place. After all, there were many powerful people here. Some of them had cultivated sword arts that were suitable for large-scale attacks. They were very suitable for such group battles. The sword technique Forbidden Zone has already increased to 5 meters. It's impossible to increase it again in a short period of time. Next, I'll use all my strength to kill as many demonic beasts as possible. Chu Mu thought to himself. He had already recovered most of his sword chi. The effects of the medicinal pill were still in effect. It would not take long for him to recover to his peak. His body was like a shooting star as he rushed towards the place with the least amount of demonic beasts. He slashed down with the profound star sword. In a split second, a dark gold sword light fell from the sky. With a boom, over 20 demonic beasts were struck by the dark golden sword light. Their tough bodies were unable to withstand it at all. Under the full power of the rock-shaking wave sword, blood splattered everywhere, and their bodies were shattered. The number on the demon slaughtering sword command changed quickly. With a flash of the sword light, 2 demonic beasts that were rushing towards him were killed. Chu Mu held the cruel sun sword tightly in his left hand. With both swords in his hands, he began his slaughter. When Chu Mu landed on the ground and started to fight with the demonic beasts, a line of small black dots appeared from the direction of the messy Goblin Mountain. They were quickly approaching. Not long after, The swordsman saw that it was a group of flying demonic beasts. With a quick glance, they estimated that there were at least 10,000 flying demonic beasts. The swordsmen's faces changed. Many of the Chi High Realm swordsmen used their secret flying techniques and flew into the sky to intercept the flying demonic beasts. Stone-shaking sword command, space-splitting sword attack. Although Chu Mu did not train in any ancient sword arts that were suitable for large-scale attacks, the stone-shaking sword command and space-splitting sword attack could kill at least 10 demonic beasts and at most 20. Soon, the number on the demon-slaughtering sword command was nearing 2,000. After continuously using the stone-shaking sword command and space-splitting sword attack, Chu Mu's sky origin sword chi was quickly depleting. Even his spirit was being depleted. He swung both swords and cleared the area around him. He quickly took out some pills and swallowed them. Pills had pill toxins. Taking them in moderation would not cause any side effects because the human body's body was able to get rid of the pill toxins. Also, the stronger a swordsman was, the more effective they would be at getting rid of the pill toxins. This was because as their cultivation increased, their body would change and become stronger. However, taking a large amount of pills in a short period of time would cause the pill toxins to accumulate. It would be difficult to get rid of the pill toxins with just the body's body. If one could not get rid of the pill toxins in time, the side effects would appear. It would affect the purity of one's sword chi. In more serious cases, it would even cause some damage to one's meridians and organs. One would have to spend a lot of time recuperating, but at this time he could not care so much. If he did not recover his sword chi, he would not be able to use his strength. To a swordsman, sword chi was the foundation. Everything else, such as sword intent, also had great power. However, without sword chi to support them, their power was limited. Compared to them, Chu Mu had an obvious advantage because of the Sky Wasteland sword body. The Sky Wasteland sword body had the trait of being immune to poison. Pill toxins were also a type of poison. Thus, they were instantly destroyed by the power of the Sky Wasteland sword body. No matter how many pills Chu Mu took, there would not be any side effects, unless it was a very special pill that exceeded the tolerance of the sword body. While the pills were recovering his sword chi, Chu Mu's 2 swords did not stop. He used basic sword arts to kill demonic beasts again and again. The speed of the profound star sword and the cruel sun sword was unbelievably fast. One could only hear a slight sound of wind being broken. The sword light of each sword was very dim. At a glance, one could only see a figure moving quickly in the dense group of demonic beasts. He used the flying swan illusory steps, causing the attacks of the demonic beasts to miss time and time again. The improvement of his sword arts allowed Chu Mu's sword speed to increase again. Originally, his sword speed was close to the speed of sound. Now, each sword's speed had reached the speed of sound and was even faster. In other words, Chu Mu did not need to use the supersonic sword secret technique to make his sword speed reach the speed of sound. Although it would cause a certain burden to the body, as long as Chu Mu controlled the rhythm properly, he could unleash a terrifying power. Chu Mu had only just grasped the supersonic sword. By killing demonic beasts, he silently calculated the burden on the body and the recovery speed of the body. From this, he found the best rhythm to balance the burden and recovery. Therefore, Chu Mu's sword speed had decreased, but it was still fast. Any demonic beast that got close to him was not spared. After killing a demonic beast with one sword, a demonic beast suddenly rushed over at an extremely fast speed. Chu Mu had just killed 2 demonic beasts with his 2 swords. Without hesitation, Yi Chen strengthened his protective sword chi and activated the feathered armor. The demonic beast's sharp claws tore through both the protective sword chi and the feathered armor. The demonic beast's sharp claws quickly reached for one of Chu Mu's arms. The speed was too fast and too sudden. Chu Mu's right arm was about to be hit by the demonic beast's sharp claws. Fortunately, the protective sword chi and the feathered armor had reduced the speed of the demonic beast's sharp claws. Using the flying swan illusory steps, the demonic beast's sharp claws missed. A sword light bloomed in front of his eyes, piercing through the demonic beast's forehead. The demonic beast's attacking speed was indeed very fast when it was in a berserk state. However, no matter how fast it was, it could not be faster than Chu Mu, because Chu Mu's sword speed had reached the speed of sound. It was normal for an Origin Realm sword artist to be able to reach, or even surpass, the speed of sound. However, it was extremely rare for a Chi-Hai sword artist to be able to reach the speed of sound. In order to increase the speed of one's sword attack, there were only two ways to improve it. First, the mastery of sword arts. The more profound one's sword skills were, the more one would be able to understand, and the more one would be able to understand how to make one's sword attack the fastest. Second, a strong body. If one only had enough skills but did not have a strong enough body to support it, it would only be a flash in the pan. Only when one's skills were combined with a strong enough body would one be able to achieve stability. A strong body did not mean that one's physical strength was powerful or explosive. It was a kind of balance that reached the standard in all aspects, perfectly coordinating every part of the body. For example, the mountain-splitting ape's physical strength was extremely terrifying. However, it was only one aspect that stood out the most. Its advantages were very obvious, but its weaknesses were also very obvious. Therefore, no matter what, the mountain-splitting ape's attack speed would not be able to reach the speed of sound. Unless it reached the Origin Realm or even higher, only then would it be able to reach the speed of sound. It could be said that, in terms of stable sword attack speed, if Chu Mu claimed to be second in the Chi-Hai realm, no one would dare to claim to be first. After recovering his sword chi, Chu Mu once again used the rock-shaking wave sword and the sky-splitting sword attack to kill the demonic beasts again and again. There were too many demonic beasts, and even if Chu Mu kept on using the flying swan illusory steps, he was still hit by the demonic beasts a few times. Most of the time, it was the protective sword chi and the feathery pattern armor that were broken through. Chu Mu relied on his super-fast reaction speed to quickly dodge the attacks and counterattack. However, there was still one time when Chu Mu's leg was scratched by the sharp claws of a demonic beast. After the desolation transformation, the toughness of his skin was amazing. The sharp claws of the demonic beast only left a small wound on his leg. It did not cause any real damage, and the wound healed in less than 3 breaths of time. With such a body type, other than the mid-level demonic beast overlords and demonic beasts that were stronger than mid-level demonic beasts, what other demonic beasts could fight against Chu Mu? The other sword artists had already used the time when the 4 mid-level demonic beast overlords were fighting against the 900 strong Chi-Hai realm sword artists to recover. Now that the demonic beast army was attacking again, they once again threw themselves into the life and death battle with the demonic beasts. Kill, kill. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 436. Come on, there aren't many beasts left. Kill, kill, kill. The beasts' roars were earth-shattering. Be it human swordsmen or beasts, all of them had gone crazy. Broken corpses were everywhere. Some of them were trampled into meat paste, and blood was flowing everywhere. It was a shocking sight. The last beast died under the swords. Some of the swordsmen were still waving their swords, and only after a few breaths did they realize that all the beasts were dead. All of the swordsmen who were still alive looked around with bloodshot eyes. They looked like people who had not slept for 10 days and 10 nights, or like murderous maniacs. That kind of crazed look was 100 times scarier than a mental patient. An ordinary person would probably suffocate to death upon seeing it. All of the living swordsmen were surrounded by strands of blood chi. Each strand was extremely cold, especially the blood sword burning Lai's body. It was completely surrounded by the dense blood chi, and it was almost materialized. In this state, the blood sword burning Lai's strength was a lot stronger than usual. It was extremely frightening. There was no sound, and only the howling of the bay foam could be heard. After 10 breaths of time, someone moved. He staggered towards the demon shaker city. Every time his foot landed on the ground, it would step on the ground that was as mangled as a puddle of blood. When he lifted his foot up, it would emit a patter sound that would cause one's hair to stand on end. The swords were stained with blood, and a layer of blood covered the body of the swords. Even if one used all of their strength to shake it off, they would not be able to shake it off completely. An extremely dense, murderous aura was lingering in the surroundings. Every swordsman's murderous aura mixed together and shook the heaven and earth. Even the dark clouds in the sky were shattered, showing signs of dissipating. Patter, patter, sounds were constantly heard. Every swordsman turned around and stepped on the ground, stepping over the corpses of the beasts and swordsmen, and walked toward the demon-shaking city. Under the ground and the corpses, there were a lot of beast nuclei and spatial bracelets. It was a huge fortune. If it were any other time, the swordsmen might fight for it. But right now, no one dared to make a move. It was not that they had forgotten, but they were very tired right now. Physical, mental, and mental exhaustion. There was an indescribable vibration that came from the depths of their souls. It was their respect for the dead. Now, they just wanted to rest. If he didn't have a good rest and let all his exhaustion disappear so that he could recover, he was afraid that he would be affected by the side effects of this kind of high-intensity killing. It would be easy for him to have inner demons and so on, which would be very disadvantageous to him. Covered in blood, only a few swordsmen were able to maintain a relatively clean appearance. Even so, most of their bodies were still covered in blood. For example, Chu Mu's moon-white robe was torn in many places. Almost half of it was dyed scarlet with blood, and it was wet and sticky. The city gates opened. The swordsmen who were still alive walked into the city without saying a word. As soon as they entered the city, they saw a few destroyed shops on both sides of the street. There were also some corpses on the street. A flying beast had successfully broken through the swordsmen's blockade and entered the city. Luckily, a Chi-Hai swordsman reacted quickly and chased after the beast, killing it without caring about the consequences. Otherwise, it would have caused even more destruction. The swordsmen in the sword Chi realm and the ordinary people in the city all held their swords. When they saw the swordsman with bloodshot eyes and covered in blood and murderous aura walk in, they were all terrified and unconsciously took a few steps back. Some of them even sat down on the ground and shivered. Chu Mu returned to the Windward Inn and asked the waiter to prepare hot water and send it to the guest room. Not long after, the bathtub was filled with hot water. Then he added a few leaves from the jade palm tree. Immediately, the fragrance of herbs filled the air. Taking off his clothes and entering the bathtub, Chu Mu sat down comfortably. He leaned his head against the edge of the bathtub and let out a sigh of relief. His entire body and mind relaxed. His arms rested on the edge of the bathtub. He wore a top-grade spatial bracelet on one hand and a top-grade spatial bracelet and a mid-grade spatial bracelet on the other hand. His eyes slowly closed and the whole world fell into darkness. He didn't want to think about anything and let the hot water soak his body, allowing his tired body to recover bit by bit in comfort. His breathing became slower and slower. Chu Mu seemed to have fallen asleep. After about 15 minutes, his eyes opened without any warning. With a wave of his hand, a broken claw appeared. It was a few times bigger than Chu Mu's hand and very heavy. It probably weighed more than 50 kilograms. The skin of this broken claw was golden yellow and smooth. However, there were some chicken claw patterns on it. It was very hard. Chu Mu took out an extreme-grade sword and lightly hacked at it. Clang! Sparks flew out as if he was hacking at steel, leaving only a faint mark. Worthy of being a mid-grade tyrant beast. Chu Mu put away his extreme grade sword and sighed. In terms of defense, the Thunderwing Goldenrock was not as good as the mountain-splitting ape or the Black Mountain Bull. However, compared to other mid-grade super-rank beasts, it was a few times stronger. It could completely resist the sharp edge of an extreme-grade sword. Chu Mu believed that even if he used the full power of his stone-shaking wave sword, he would only be able to injure it. He wouldn't be able to cut off this claw. The power of chop iron is indeed powerful. It is at least twice as powerful as the stone-shaking wave sword. Chu Mu's mouth curved into a smile. He spoke from the bottom of his heart with a voice that only he could hear. Chop iron was the name of a new sword skill that he had created. Steel was usually used to represent toughness. Some people said that a steel-like body meant that the body was very tough and tough. A steel-like will also meant that the will was very tough and indestructible. It was named chop iron, which meant that it could cut through all toughness and was indestructible. This was the special feature of his new sword skill. At the same time, it was also Chu Mu's goal and expectation. However, chop iron was just a new skill. Although it was powerful, there was still a lot of room for improvement. Although they were all sword skills, chop iron was obviously different from the stone-shaking wave sword and the space-splitting sword. The stone-shaking wave sword and the space-splitting sword were sword skills that belonged to swordsmen. Chop iron was a sword skill that belonged to swordmasters. The stone-shaking wave sword used the stone-shaking wave sword as the foundation and merged with other parts as the flesh and soul. The space-splitting sword used the ripping concept as the foundation and merged with other parts as the flesh and soul. Chop iron was also inseparable from the sword chi concept, stone-shaking wave sword and sword force. However, its foundation was pure swordsmanship. In this aspect, it was clearly different from the stone-shaking wave sword and the space-splitting sword. On the ancient sword continent, basic swordsmanship was compulsory. However, it was not the only choice. Swordsmen practiced basic swordsmanship to lay down a good and solid foundation for themselves. It would be convenient for them to cultivate more profound swordsmanship in the future. It would also be convenient for them to rely on their outstanding basic swordsmanship to defeat powerful enemies when they were unable to use more profound swordsmanship. No matter what, the basic swordsmanship on the ancient sword continent was only the foundation. Perhaps some people had great perseverance and willpower to persist in practicing basic swordsmanship, but they would definitely not spend too much time on it. At most, they would practice it a few times a day. Sword masters were different. They practiced basic swordsmanship from the moment they came into contact with the sword. There was only one basic swordsmanship. Thus, after thousands of years of development, the foundation of basic swordsmanship was derived from basic swordsmanship. Basic swordsmanship was also improved time and time again, becoming more efficient and powerful. Moreover, some of the improved swordsmanship leaned towards more strength or speed. No matter how it was changed, the essence was still basic swordsmanship. It had never deviated from the essence. When a swordsman's basic swordsmanship was cultivated to a certain level, that was, when he broke through to the Grandmaster realm, he would begin to create his own swordsmanship according to his own characteristics and needs. A swordsman's swordsmanship was the sublimation of basic swordsmanship. It was the condensation of the essence of basic swordsmanship, and its power was far beyond that of basic swordsmanship. Even though the ancient sword continent's swordsmanship civilization was far superior to Earth's, the achievements of a swordsman in basic swordsmanship were not something swordsmen could compare with. Simply put, they were two different paths. Perhaps they would eventually reach the same goal, but no one had ever achieved it. There was no way to prove it. Ever since his basic swordsmanship reached the Grandmaster realm, Chu Mu had also thought of creating a swordsman's ultimate sword move. He had also taken action and created a shocking cloud kill. However, it was only a very basic sword move. It was nothing at all. In the future, because he had to cultivate a swordsman's swordsmanship cultivate sword aura, comprehend sword intent, comprehend sword momentum, and so on. It took up most of his time. He also had to gain combat experience. As a result, Chu Mu could not calm down to create a swordsman's ultimate sword move properly. Every swordsmanship master would take at least a few years to create a sword move that truly belonged to him. It would take at least a few years, and at most more than a decade. They had a very deep foundation and rich experience. Compared to those swordsmanship masters, Chu Mu was too young, lacking in foundation, and not rich enough experience. However, all of this was not important. Chu Mu had a powerful soul that ordinary people could not compare to. He had monstrous comprehension and unparalleled talent in swordsmanship. Even so, Chu Mu had only truly created a swordsman's ultimate sword move, slash iron. If it had not been for the monster army riot this time, it would have taken Chu Mu at least half a year or even a year to create a swordsman's ultimate sword move. At that time, the power of the sword move created would not necessarily be comparable to slash iron. It could be said that slash iron was a pure killing sword move that Chu Mu had an epiphany when he entered the deep state of the forbidden zone of swordsmanship. It had only one purpose, to kill. Compared to other swordsmanship masters, Chu Mu had now reached the level of swordsmanship master Desheng. The swordsmanship created by Desheng in the state of epiphany was naturally more powerful than the swordsmanship created by beginner swordsmanship masters and initial swordsmanship masters. Moreover, Chu Mu was fortunate enough to integrate everything he knew into it, causing iron slash's might to become even stronger. Sword Qi, Desheng's peak rock-shaking force, more than 60% of the tearing concept, and 10% of the perfect sword force. These four types of energy seemed to have been crushed and seeped into the sword, becoming one with the sword. It was as if they had become the materials used to forge the sword. The sword seemed to have become heavier and harder, and its sharpness was even more shocking. Only then could it be invincible. It was powerful, but it also consumed a lot of energy. This was clearly different from a swordsman's swordsmanship, because a swordsman's swordsmanship attached various types of energy to the surface of the sword. The initial slash iron could cut off the claws of the thunder-winged golden rock. Chu Mu believed that a perfected slash iron could even kill the Black Mountain Bull with its amazing defense. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 437. The power of chopping steel is indeed very strong, but its flaws are equally obvious. Chu Mu kept the broken claw of the Thunderwing golden rock and closed his eyes again. His tensed body relaxed once again, and he almost sank into the hot water. Chu Mu was very clear about the strengths and weaknesses of chopping steel, but he couldn't change it. It was fixed from the moment he created chopping steel. Next, Chu Mu could only perfect chopping steel and increase its power, but the flaws were still there. The flaw of chopping steel was that it could only be used in close combat. The length of the arm and the length of the sword represented the attacking range of chopping steel. It couldn't be more than half an inch. Of course, the sword wind brought about by chopping steel was also very powerful. No longer thinking, Chu Mu's breathing became more subtle and long as he fell asleep. 2 hours later, Chu Mu woke up. The hot water had already turned into cold water. He felt refreshed and energized. The tiredness brought about by the high-intensity battle was washed away like dirt. Heaven and earth were so clear. As he got up, the sound of water splashing could be heard. Countless water droplets flowed from his body into the bathtub, creating countless ripples. Chu Mu gently jumped out of the bathtub without causing any splash. He stretched his body and put on new clothes. Chu Mu first went to O Qingluo's room. O Qingluo was shocked by Chu Mu's murderous aura that had yet to dissipate. He was so weak that he almost suffocated. Chu Mu had no choice but to control it with all his might. However, The murderous aura was too dense, and it still affected Chunluo greatly. Helpless, Chu Mu only said a few words before leaving Chunluo's room. Returning to his room, he took out a book and started reading. Balance between work and rest was the right way to go. As for the matters outside, there would naturally be someone to take care of it. He and the other swordsmen only needed to defend the Demon Shaker City and repel or kill the demonic beast army. Just as Chu-Mu expected, the Demon Shaker City was very busy. After the demonic beast army was slaughtered, the battle between the 5 astral realm experts and the demonic beasts ended quickly. Only the 5 astral realm experts knew the result of the battle. No matter what, the million-strong demonic beast army that was rarely seen in hundreds of years had failed, and the million-strong demonic beasts had all been killed. The demonic beasts of the Chaos Yao Mountains had suffered great losses. This was great news for the people of Chaos Yao City. The only bad news was that the swordsmen had suffered heavy losses. The people in the Demon Shaker City were busy rebuilding their shops, but that was a small matter. The cleanup of the battlefield outside the Demon Shaker City was of utmost importance. Collecting the corpses of the dead swordsmen, collecting the corpses of the demonic beasts, the swords and spatial bracelets of the dead swordsmen, the demonic cores of the demonic beasts, and so on was a huge workload. Almost all the chi swordsmen and ordinary people in the Demon Shaker City were mobilized. When they saw the Azura slaughter field that was like a meat grinder, their expressions changed drastically. They vomited nonstop, and some even vomited until they felt weak all over. Some even fainted. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Chu-Mu had been staying in the inn all this time, and his meals were all delivered by the waiter. On the first day, Chu-Mu did not think about anything. He just rested and read, allowing himself to be in a relatively calm state. On the second day, Chu-Mu began to think about the battle with the demonic beast army. Every time he attacked with his sword, every time he killed, Chu-Mu felt as though he had returned to that high-intensity slaughter. The killing intent that had yet to dissipate from his body surged and filled the entire room. The light in the room dimmed, as though the day had turned into dusk. The killing intent was frighteningly sharp and cold. It leaked out slightly from the room, causing the waiter who occasionally walked past to feel weak all over. On the third day, Chu-Mu was still thinking about it. However, the focus of his thinking had shifted from the battle with the demonic beasts to the various comprehensions he had gained in the midst of life and death. This was especially true for the short battle with the Thunderwing Goldenrock and the moment when he used the Iron Cleave sword technique. Most of the other swordsmen were the same. This kind of battle of life and death was a huge harvest for their path as a swordsman. It was a kind of wealth. Therefore, they were all thinking about it after a good rest. They wanted to convert the insights they gained from the battle into their own gains, increasing their realm and strength. At the same time, the injured swordsmen were also recuperating. As for those who had lost an arm or a leg, there was no way for them to grow back. On the fourth day, the swordsmen were notified to gather at the plaza beside the city, Lord's Mansion. The top 10 of the Demon Slaughter leaderboard would be given out by the 5 Origin Realm experts. Opening the door, Chu-Mu still had the killing intent on his body. However, it was 10 times weaker than 3 days ago. He went to Chunluo's room, intending to bring Chunluo to broaden his horizons. The killing intent had reached a level where Chunluo could resist it. Chu-Mu also told Chunluo that this time he was only bringing him to broaden his horizons. He should be able to see the people from the Red Robes Association. But no matter what, he should not be impulsive. To the current Red Robes Association, Chunluo was just an ant that could be crushed with a single finger. Chu-Mu promised Old Master that he would take care of Chunluo, but that didn't mean that he would be Chunluo's nanny. Therefore, Chunluo had to be responsible for himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to achieve anything. When Chu-Mu brought Chunluo to the plaza, there was already a large number of swordsmen gathered there. Every swordsman had more or less killing intent, which was left behind from the desperate battle 3 days ago. It wouldn't dissipate so quickly. With so many swordsmen gathered, streams of killing intent gathered and soared into the sky. Oh, Qingluo's face turned pale and his legs went soft. He almost fell down, but he held on with his willpower. Blood was seeping out from the roots of his teeth. Seeing that Qingluo was about to collapse, Chu Mu released his aura to isolate the killing intent. Only then did Qingluo let out a sigh of relief. 5 Origin Realm experts. After a short moment of silence, one of the Origin Realm experts spoke. His voice was deep and heavy, with a trace of sadness. He summarized the battle with the demon army and expressed his condolences to the swordsmen who had sacrificed their lives to resist the invasion of the demon army. Almost all the swordsmen were affected and couldn't help but feel sorrow from the bottom of their hearts. 120,000 swordsmen had died under the claws of the demonic beasts. This was equivalent to reducing the strength of the demon-shaking city by 60 to 70%. Chu Mu also knew that the sacrifice this time was huge, but he didn't expect it to be 120,000. When he heard this number, he was extremely shocked. Their sacrifice resulted in the destruction of the million demonic beast army. Because of your sacrifice, we managed to defend the demon-shaking city. The Origin Realm swordsman's tone changed from low to excited, full of encouragement. It pulled the swordsmen out of their sorrow, and their minds were shaken. They couldn't wait to pull out their swords and fight the demonic beasts for another 3 days and 3 nights. Next, it was time for the main event. Of the 1,000 strongest Chi-Hai swordsmen who participated in the demons' slaughtering rankings, 123 had died. They had no fate with the demons' slaughtering rankings. Someone started to record the numbers on the demon slaughtering sword tokens for the 877 Chi-Hai swordsmen who survived. The unrelated swordsmen automatically spread out and stood around, waiting for the results. After half an hour, the counting was completed and the results were announced. Everyone, including Chu Mu, held their breaths. Many swordsmen came here not only to gain experience, but also to gain more rewards. Now, it was time to reap the rewards. Let's start with the 10th place. The name list fell into the hands of the 5 Origin Realm swordsmen, and one of them announced. 10th place, Li Xiaoxiao, 1,630 demonic beasts killed. Li Xiaoxiao was a female swordsman. After hearing her name, she was shocked at first, but then her face was filled with joy. Many of the Chi-Hai swordsmen sighed after hearing the number of demonic beasts killed by Li Xiaoxiao. Their faces were filled with disappointment because they knew that the number on their tokens was less than 1,630. This meant that they had no fate with the top 10, and the rich rewards had nothing to do with them. The swordsmen who had killed more than 1,630 demonic beasts all let out a sigh of relief. But then they became nervous again. They were sure that they could enter the top 10 and get the rewards, but the rewards for each rank were quite different. The higher the rank, the more rewards they would get. They were not sure what rank they would be placed in. 9th place, Fong Hao, 1,742 demonic beasts killed. Congratulations, Senior Brother Fong. Senior Brother Fong is so powerful. A group of swordsmen in black robes complimented. Chu Mu was slightly surprised. This Fong Hao was the core disciple of the Moro sword sect who had threatened him before. It seemed that he was indeed very powerful. 8th place, Ji Tianshu, 1,800 demonic beasts killed. 7th place, In Lai, 1,907 demonic beasts killed. 6th place, Fun Lai, 2,700 demonic beasts killed. 5th place, Tu Kong, 2,100 demonic beasts killed. 4th place, Gui Wu, 2,200 demonic beasts killed. 3rd place, Chu Mu, 2,345 demonic beasts killed. After the announcement, Oh Chenluo looked at Chu Mu with admiration. Tu Kong, Fen Lai, and the others all looked over, their battle intent rising. Chu Mu himself was also surprised. He did not dare to hope for the first place, and Chu Mu did not even think about how many spots he would get. He just wanted to enter the top 10. He did not expect that not only would he enter the top 10, but he would also reach the third place. This was somewhat unexpected. Second place, Tang Yen, 2,500 demonic beasts killed. First place, Yen Qilong, 2,830 demonic beasts killed. Once the announcement of the first place was made, it immediately shocked everyone. The difference between the number of demonic beasts killed from the second place to the 10th place was not even 200, but the difference between the second place and the first place was more than 300. All of a sudden, all the swordsmen's eyes fell on Yen Qilong. He was in his early 30s and had an ordinary appearance. Only his fiery red hair left a deep impression. Chu Mu guessed that this person might already have the strength of a swordmaster. Congratulations to the 10 of you for entering the top 10 of the Demon Slaughter leaderboard. This is the reward you deserve. After the announcement, 10 mid-grade spatial bracelets flew towards Chu Mu and the others and were caught by them. This time, the Demon Shaking City was defended because of your efforts. Therefore, the other swordsmen on the Demon Slaughter leaderboard will each receive 10,000 mid-grade spiritual stones. The other sea of Qi Realm swordsmen will each receive 1,000 mid-grade spiritual stones. The Qi Realm swordsmen will each receive 1,000 low-grade spiritual stones. One of the primary realm swordsmen announced, "It was better than nothing. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation." Chapter 438. Chu Mu, I did not expect you to become so strong. A deep voice came from behind Chu Mu, carrying with it an overbearing aura. Turning around, Chu Mu was surprised at first, then he smiled. I also did not expect you to reach the peak of the Qi High Realm. If you can reach the peak of the Qi High Realm, why can't I reach the peak of the Qi High Realm? Huangfu Tsunyue's voice was deep, but her eyes were shining brightly. In the past, you were not as strong as me, but now you have surpassed me. However, I will surpass you in the future, and then I will let you taste the feeling of being defeated by my sword. Anytime. Chu Mu let out a carefree laugh and said, "This conversation was neither friendly nor hostile, so it ended here." Huangfu Tsunyue turned around and left. "Let's go," Chu Mu said to Cheng Luo, who was still in a daze. The two walked along the street towards the Windward Inn. The demon beast rampage had ended, and the surviving foreign sword artists were preparing to leave with their rewards. The Demon Shaking City had entered an unprecedented period of depression, and only by surviving this period of depression could the Demon Shaking City become strong again. However, no one knew how long this period of depression would last. Chu Mu could not wait to return to his room. Closing the door, he took out a mid-rank space bracelet from his chest. "All the rewards are in here," Chu Mu said to himself. He calmed down his breathing and started to drip his blood on the bracelet to recognize it as its owner. This mid-rank space bracelet did not have an owner. After easily recognizing it as its owner, Chu Mu sent his mind into it to check. After 10 breaths of time, Chu Mu had finished checking, and everything in the mid-rank space bracelet was clear to him. Although he already knew about the rewards, he was still surprised when he got his hands on them. With a wave of his hand, mahogany boxes of different sizes appeared on the floor of the room. Chu Mu sent out sword beams to open each of the chests. Immediately, thick Yao energy and spiritual energy spread out, filling the entire room and spreading outside. First, there were the demon nuclei. 1,000 mid-grade transcendent demon nuclei, 3,000 mid-grade high-grade demon nuclei, 5,000 mid-grade demon nuclei, and 10,000 low-grade, mid-grade demon nuclei. These demon nuclei took up 4 boxes. Next were the spirit stones, all of which were mid-grade spirit stones. There were a total of 80,000 spirit stones, which was equivalent to 8 large mahogany chests. Chu Mu was pleasantly surprised. Before the invasion of the monster beast army, there was no mention of monster cores as a reward. The reward for 3rd place was only 70,000 mid-grade spirit stones, not 80,000. The additional 10,000 should have been added later. Every powerful swordsman who participated in the demon slaughter rankings would receive an additional 10,000 mid-grade spirit stones as a reward. 877. Everyone received an additional 10,000 mid-grade spirit stones, which is 8,770,000 mid-grade spirit stones. In addition to what the top 10 received and what the other swordsmen received, the total cost is over 10 million mid-grade spirit stones. This number made Chu Mu suck in a breath of cold air. After thinking about it carefully, 10 million mid-grade spirit stones should be a small matter for 5 primary realm swordsmen. Moreover, 10 million mid-grade spirit stones wouldn't necessarily be paid by them. The most important thing was the dead swordsman's weapons and wealth, as well as the million demonic beast cores. These things all belonged to the demon Shaker City. To put it bluntly, the rewards that Chu Mu and the others received were actually equivalent to the wealth of the dead swordsmen, as well as the materials and cores of the demonic beasts that were slain. In the end, it was the demon Shaker City that profited. Apart from the demon nuclei and mid-grade spirit stones, there was also a book with a few words written on the cover. UNG Insights. The name was very simple, but it contained an extraordinary meaning, which made Chu Mu's heart skip a beat. He quickly flipped through it and immediately knew that this was in UNG Realm Martial Artists Insights. It started from the Sword Chi stage and ended when he broke through to the UNG realm. This book contained insights on basic sword arts, insights on ancient sword arts, insights on the use of mental states, insights on sword force, and insights on life and death battles. There were 5 chapters in total, and each chapter was not long. The narration was short and easy to understand. It started from the basics and went from the basics to the basics. The only flaw was that it was not deep enough, but for a Chi High Realm swordsman it was enough. Comprehending this book would save a lot of time and would be of great help to a Chi High Realm swordsman. Even if you had the money, you wouldn't be able to buy it. Next was a small jade box. At the bottom of the jade box was a small piece of paper with 3 words written on it. It was the name of the item in the jade box. Mind-Raising Dan. Back when Chu Mu was in the inner house, he had obtained a Mind-Refining Dan. Chu Mu was very clear about its effects. The Mind-Raising Dan was 1 grade higher than the Mind-Refining Dan. It was equivalent to upgrading the Mind-Refining Dan. Chu Mu took a deep breath. His eyes were filled with surprise. The Mind-Refining Dan was suitable for the small success stage of mental states, while the Mind-Raising Dan was suitable for Deshang's mental states. With this Mind-Raising Dan, Chu Mu's tearing mentality could be increased to at least 70%. If he could increase his cloud mentality, it could be increased to at least 80% or even higher. Besides that, there were 3 gourds filled with pellets. There were 20 pellets in each gourd. They were chi-linking pellets, life-returning pellets, and wound-healing pellets. Compared to the Mind-Raising Dan, the total value of these 3 gourds of pellets was not as high. But each gourd would still cost a few thousand mid-rank soul stones. The chi-linking pellet was used to recover sword chi. 1 pellet was enough to completely recover all of Deshang's Chi High Realm swordsman's sword chi. The life-returning pellet was used to heal internal injuries, and the wound-healing pellet was used to heal external injuries. These were the rewards for Chu Mu for getting the 3rd place on the Beast Slaughter ranking. There were 5 things in total, and they could be described as generous. There was a knock on the door. Chu Mu put all of these things into his upper rank spatial bracelet. He flicked out his sword chi and opened the door. There was a middle-aged man standing outside the door. He looked like he was in his 40s. His hair was white, and he gave off a gentle and refined feeling. There was a smile on his face. Chu-Mu realized that he could not see through this man's cultivation. He could only see it with his eyes. Once he closed his eyes, he could not feel it. "My name is Ma Rulong. I am the owner of the Windward Inn." The middle-aged man smiled and walked into the room naturally. He sat down on a chair not far from Chu-Mu. Chu-Mu was shocked. One of the top 5 primary realm swordsmen of the demon-shaking city had come to see him personally. What was his intention? "You don't have to worry. I have no ill intentions towards you." Ma Rulong kept a gentle smile on his face, which made Chu-Mu feel like he was bathing in a spring breeze. "I have 3 things to tell you." "Sir, please speak," Chu-Mu said. Being an primary realm swordsman represented an achievement. It was the goal of many swordsmen. At the same time, it was also a sign that one had truly stepped onto the path of the sword. Therefore, they had a common name, Sir. "First, I want to take you as my disciple. I don't know if you are willing." Ma Rulong said very directly, "Thank you for your kindness, sir. However, Chu-Mu already has a master." Chu-Mu was stunned at first, but then he stood up and saluted with a sword. He said seriously, "Pretend I didn't say the first thing. The second thing is that you cut off one of the Thunderwing Goldenrock's claws and forced it to retreat. You scared off the other 3 mid-rank demonic beast overlords and reduced the swordsman's losses. You have contributed a lot." Ma Rulong spoke frankly. He wasn't angry at Chu-Mu's rejection because he didn't have any hope for the first thing. However, the ranking of the Beast Slaughter leaderboard is based on the number of demonic beasts killed. Even if we think you can get the first place, it is useless. Chu-Mu nodded. He didn't care about this point. Since he was willing to accept the Beast Slaughter sword command, it meant that he was willing to follow the rules of the Beast Slaughter leaderboard. If you didn't cut off one of the Thunderwing Goldenrock's claws and force it to retreat, it would be hard to say if the Beast Slaughter leaderboard could hold on. Even if it did, the losses would be worse than now. Therefore, after some discussion, we have decided to give you something. As he spoke, a sheathed long sword appeared in Ma Rulong's hand. He pulled it out with a bit of force. The coldness and sharpness of the sword made Chu-Mu shiver. He squinted his eyes and used the sword observation technique to take a closer look. This was a top-quality sword. It was purple in color, with black patterns spreading out like a dragon. The sword hilt was like a bamboo joint, and the sword head was like a sharp spike at the top of a tower. It flickered with a cold light. The sword guard was a simple oval shape. The blade was 2 fingers wide and 3 feet long. It gradually narrowed from the guard to the tip until it was only 1.5 fingers wide. The blade was thinner than a regular sword, and the blade was incomparably sharp. The tip of the sword was astonishingly sharp and slightly shiny. It made Chu-Mu's eyes hurt a little. The spine of the sword was like a straight golden thread. There was a blood groove on both sides. Imagine if such a sword pierced into a human or demonic beast's body. A large amount of blood would flow out from the blood groove. How shocking would that be? The Beast Slaughter sword. Ma Rulong said its name, as well as its origin and characteristics. It was a top-quality sword with a simple appearance. It was superior to the Profound Star Sword. Even the gold-shattering Sword Hero, Mad Dragon Sword Hero's Extreme Edge Sword and Mad Dragon Sword couldn't compare. It was rumored that the Beast Slaughter Sword was a replica of the Beast Slaughter Sword. The Beast Slaughter Sword was a terrifying existence that surpassed top-quality swords. It had slaughtered countless demonic beasts and beasts. It had a terrifying lethality and deterrence to both demonic beasts and demonic beasts. The Beast Slaughter sword couldn't increase the power of any sword arts, nor could it increase the speed of the sword. It also couldn't increase the attack power of the sword. It only had 2 characteristics. First, its hardness and toughness were extraordinary. It was even stronger than top-quality swords and infinitely close to a royal-grade sword. Second, it could break through astral barriers. It could easily break through protective sword auras, demonic astral barriers, and artifact armors. Moreover, the sword tip and blade were astonishingly sharp. If there was an atmospheric sea realm swordsman wielding the beast slaughter sword, he might be able to injure the Black Mountain Bull. Such a top-quality sword was extremely rare and valuable. If Chu Mu hadn't cut off one of the thunder-winged Goldenrock's claws and forced it to retreat, causing the other 3 mid-level demonic beast overlords to retreat, Ma Rulong wouldn't have given it to Chu Mu. Swordsmen loved swords. After receiving it, Chu Mu couldn't bear to put it down. The sword hilt was very comfortable in his hand, as if it was tailor-made for him. Third, it's about the conflict between you and the Red Dress Association. Ma Rulong saw that Chu Mu didn't reject the beast slaughter sword and the look in Chu Mu's eyes when he looked at the beast slaughter sword. He smiled and continued, "You have contributed greatly to the Demon Shaker City. You are young and powerful, and your future achievements will be extraordinary. Therefore, I was entrusted to mediate the conflict between you and the Red Dress Association. The Red Dress Association is willing to pay 50,000 mid-grade spiritual stones as an apology." After he finished speaking, Ma Rulong looked at Chu Mu and waited for Chu Mu's reply. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qijin. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation. Chapter 439. All right. Chu Mu gave it some thought and agreed to Ma Rulong's mediation. Originally, Chu Mu did not plan to deal with the Red Men's Association and left it to O Chen Luo. Regardless of whether he could successfully take revenge on the Red Men's Association, he would at least have a clear goal. Previously, he had rejected Ma Rulong's first request and embarrassed him. If he rejected him again, it was inevitable that he would lose face and become angry out of shame. Offending an original realm swordsman for no reason was not something to be happy about. Very good. Ma Rulong smiled as 5 mid-grade bronze spirit stone cards appeared in his hand and handed them to Chu Mu. A mid-grade bronze spirit stone card represented 10,000 mid-grade spirit stones. Then the two chatted for a while before Ma Rulong stood up and left. After all, between a Qi Si swordsman and an original realm swordsman, there was a huge difference in age, experience, and strength. It was like an old man who had experienced the vicissitudes of life and a hot-blooded youth who had just made his debut. It was quite difficult for the two to find a common topic to discuss. After Ma Rulong left, Chu Mu flicked his sword Qi to close the door and pulled out the monster slaying sword. Demon slaying sword's sword tip and blade were extremely thin and sharp. It constantly emitted strands of white light. The white light was extremely dazzling, and Chu Mu had no choice but to squint his eyes to feel better. With a light wave, the monster slaying sword made a slight sound of breaking the wind and left a faint trace in the air. The trace was thinner than a strand of hair. Chu Mu took out another top-grade upper-grade sword and held it in his left hand. He raised the monster slaying sword with his right hand and chopped down without injecting any sword Qi or mental state. It was like a flash of lightning. With an obscure sound, the top-grade upper-grade sword was cut in half and fell to the ground. The cut was as smooth as a mirror. Although a peak high-grade sword was not as good as an extreme-grade sword, it was very close to an ordinary extreme-grade sword. Under normal circumstances, an ordinary extreme-grade sword could at most leave a small mark on a peak high-grade sword. Even some peak high-grade swords could not break a peak high-grade sword in one strike. Good sword. Chu Mu tossed the high-grade sword aside and gently ran his finger across the blade of the demon slaying sword. The cold touch seemed to freeze his finger. Chu Mu sighed softly. His eyes were filled with intoxication. He didn't feel the coldness at all. His finger gently touched the tip of the sword. Swordsmen loved their swords, and so did swordmasters, especially good swords. For Chu Mu, who practiced the sword observation technique, the demon-slaying sword was the best sword he had ever seen. He loved it so much that he couldn't put it down. If the monster-slaying sword is like this, then what about the monster-slaying sword? A thought suddenly flashed through Chu Mu's mind. He couldn't wait to see the monster-slaying sword. Unfortunately, he couldn't find it. Sheathing the sword, Chu Mu stored the demon-slaying sword in his spatial bracelet. With the demon-slaying sword, Chu Mu's attack power increased again. It could be said that Chu Mu's goal of training in the outside world had been achieved. Staying here would not be of much help. Immediately, he thought of leaving Demon Shaker City. The million-strong monster army of Demon Shaker Mountain had been completely wiped out. According to Marulong and the others' estimates, there would not be another monster uprising for at least 100 years. The number of monsters in Demon Shaker Mountain was unprecedentedly low. With Chu Mu's current strength, mid-level monsters were no match for him. Mid-level overlords were too strong. In a one-on-one fight, Chu Mu had no chance of winning, even if he had the demon-slaying sword. As for high-level monsters, there was no need to even mention them. First, I'll take the Rising Will Pale and raise my tearing concept to Deshang. After my strength has increased, I'll take care of everything and leave Demon Shaker City for the border city. Chu Mu thought to himself. He took out the jade box containing the Rising Will Pill from his spatial bracelet. It was night time, so no one would come to disturb him. Chu Mu adjusted his breathing. After adjusting his essence, chi, and spirit to the best state, he opened the jade box and took out the Rising Will Pill. The Rising Will Pill was the size of a longan fruit. Its color was golden and round. A faint halo flashed through it. A wisp of fragrance filled the air. It was impossible to describe what kind of fragrance it was. Just smelling it made one feel refreshed. Swallowing the Rising Will Pill, it immediately dissolved into a clear stream that flowed through his meridians and into his mind, entering his spiritual world. Chu Mu only felt that his mind had been strengthened and magnified a few times. It had never been so clear before. Even if he did not focus on it, he could still feel all kinds of enlightenment. Every second was precious. Chu Mu took this opportunity to focus on the dark golden sword ray in his mental world and comprehend it. Cutting, sharpness, all kinds of characteristics of the tearing concept appeared in Chu Mu's mind one by one. Chu Mu continued to deepen his understanding of it. Chu Mu's body started to emit a sharp aura. Strands of dark golden light that were as thin as hair started to appear and wrap around his body, as if they were going to tear the space apart. Such a sharp power of the concept. It is a mutated concept, even more terrifying than the cutting concept. In the room on the highest floor of the Windward Inn, Marulong's face was full of surprise as he mumbled to himself. Soon after, Marulong secretly smiled and shook his head. At the age of 20, he has already comprehended a mutated concept that is even more powerful than the cutting concept. His sword aura has reached perfection, and his cultivation has reached the initial Chi-Hai realm. He can even injure a mid-level tyrant beast. Genius, a true genius. It will not be hard for him to reach the origin realm. How could such a genius not have a master? I have been too reckless. In fact, Chu Mu did not have a master on the ancient sword continent other than the one who taught him basic sword arts on Earth. Everything he had was obtained through his own hard work. If it were someone else, they would definitely be willing to take an Origin Realm Master as their master. Especially if it was an Origin Realm Master who took the initiative to ask, they would definitely be overjoyed. Unfortunately, Chu Mu was Chu Mu. In his eyes, an Origin Realm Master was a powerful swordsman, not a powerful warrior. A powerful swordsman and a powerful warrior were two different concepts. For Chu Mu, the Origin Realm was just a realm that he would definitely reach. He had complete confidence in it. Therefore, when many people were in awe and even worshipping an Origin Realm Master, Chu Mu's heart was filled with excitement and battle intent, even though he knew that he would not be able to block even one sword chi from an Origin Realm swordsman. People like ferocious sword void slaughter only had respect for Origin Realm swordsmen, not worship them. One's mentality determined one's achievements. Those who dared to have a battle intent towards an Origin Realm swordsman would definitely have great achievements in the future. Even if they did not die halfway, they would still be able to reach the Origin Realm. However, those who only worshipped an Origin Realm master would find it extremely difficult to break through to the Origin Realm. Even if they were lucky enough to break through, they would only be able to reach the Origin Realm for the rest of their lives. Chu Mu had his own path, a path where both swordsmen and swordsmen coexisted. He was the only one on this path, and there was no one to guide him. Plus, he was extremely ambitious. The Origin Realm was only a goal in his heart, and he had bigger goals in the future. If Ma Rulong knew about Chu Mu's thoughts, he would definitely bitterly smile. Time slowly passed, and the night became as dark as water. Originally, one could still hear the roars of beasts coming from the Chaoyao Mountain, but now it was extremely quiet. Chu Mu's body was surrounded by strands of dark gold. More and more of them appeared, indicating that his understanding of the concept of tearing was gradually deepening. The night went by silently. The sun rose into the sky, shining with a golden light. A new day had arrived, full of vitality. The dark gold light around Chu Mu's body completely disappeared. He opened his eyes, revealing his dark gold pupils that were extremely sharp. His gaze seemed to be able to tear through everything. After one night, the medicinal effect of the will increasing pill disappeared, and Chu Mu's understanding of the concept of tearing had come to an end. 70%. Exhaling, Chu Mu said softly. The dark gold in his pupils faded and disappeared, returning to a deep black. 70% of the concept of tearing meant that he had just entered the Deshang realm. In terms of power, he had reached 100% of the normal concept. Whether it was the stone-shaking wave sword, the sky-splitting sword, or the iron-chopping sword, their power had all increased because of the improvement of the concept of tearing. Next, Chu Mu took out mid-grade spirit stones and started to cultivate the heaven origin, sword chi, sword arts, and so on. When it was close to noon, there was a knock on the door of the guest room. It was the waiter who brought in the food and a letter. Chu Mu opened the letter and read it, frowning slightly. The letter was written by Fong Hao, and the content was to ask Chu Mu to come to the Demon Shaker City, 10 miles away from the city, to settle their grudges before this evening. At the end of the letter, it also stated that if Chu Mu did not agree, they would continue to stay in the city and keep an eye on Chu Mu. Once Chu Mu left the city, they would follow up and take action. All right. Crumpling the letter into a ball and throwing it into the trash can, Chu Mu enjoyed the delicious meal in peace. There were still a few hours before evening, and there was plenty of time. Chu Mu was not in a hurry at all. He agreed with Fong Hao's suggestion, and it was time to settle their grudges. Part of the meal was demonic beast meat, which contained powerful energy and was beneficial to the body. With millions of demonic beasts dead, at least half of the corpses were collected, and the edible parts were cut and processed. Now, there was no shortage of meat in the entire Demon Shaker City. For ordinary people and sword chi cultivators, this was good news, as it could strengthen their bodies and increase their potential. Their sword chi cultivation speed would also increase, and they would enter the chi transformation realm earlier. After finishing the meal, Chu Mu placed the plate outside the door, closed the door, and went downstairs. Most of the tables in the lobby of the inn were empty, and only a small part of the tables were occupied by swordsmen. It was not full either, which was a big difference from the past. Lord Chu. When someone saw Chu Mu, he immediately stood up and saluted with his sword. The others also quickly stood up with a respectful expression. This time, the millions of demonic beasts had made Chu Mu famous, and he was truly recognized by the swordsmen of the Demon Shaker City. They felt respect for him from the bottom of their hearts. Chu Mu smiled and nodded. He walked out of the inn and walked along the street towards the outside of the city. As he walked, he suddenly became vigilant and subconsciously took a step back. A sharp sword light silently stabbed at him from the side. Chu Mu pulled out his sword to counterattack, but when his sword missed, another sword light slashed at him from behind. This sword light was light and subtle, and it was hard to detect. It was unpredictable and full of strangeness, and it would often appear from unimaginable angles, making it impossible to guard against. However, the sword light did not have any killing intent. Chu Mu counterattacked with his sword, and each of his sword accurately blocked the sword light's attack, causing it to fail. Your swordsmanship is indeed very powerful. A hoarse voice came and then disappeared. Chu Mu vaguely saw a figure walking away. Your swordsmanship is also very powerful. Chu Mu smiled and said softly as he sheathed his sword, "To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Chijian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation." Chapter 440. Demon, Sword, Ghost Mist, you really live up to your name. Chu Mu muttered to himself as he strode towards the city gate. The person who suddenly attacked just now, although he didn't reveal his identity, from his sword technique and his retreating figure, Chu Mu was sure that he was the demon sword Ghost Fog, whose whereabouts were the most unpredictable. The reason why he did not show any killing intent was because he wanted to test Chu Mu's swordsmanship. As for why he wanted to test Chu Mu, the reason was simple. Chu Mu had used his swordsmanship to kill Broken Sword Sunsets. Broken Sword was known as the #1 swordsmanship in Monster Shaker City, while Demon Sword was #1. Since Chu Mu could kill Broken Sword Sunsets with a swordsmanship, some people thought that his swordsmanship was comparable to Demon Sword Ghost Mist. The results showed that Chu Mu's swordsmanship was indeed unfathomable. Ghost Mist was not confident that he could defeat Chu Mu in swordsmanship. There was also no enmity between them, so the matter was left unsettled. As soon as he walked out of Monster Shaker City, the dark red ground was even darker than before. It was almost black. A thick smell of blood floated in the air. Countless cold-killing intent lingered on the ground. Even the scorching sun could not help it. This was because a fierce battle had happened here a few days ago. It was an Azura killing field. However, other than the almost black ground, there were no broken limbs to be seen. Everything had been cleaned up by the people of Monster Shaker City. It was hard to imagine the fierce battle that happened a few days ago without using any movement techniques. Chu Mu paced around the battlefield that was once a battlefield. He could feel the cold, killing intent condensing in the air. It was as if he could see demon beasts charging towards him and swordsmen waving their swords in a life and death battle with the demon beasts. These were all illusions. However, those with weak willpower would be affected and go crazy. Moreover, if the killing intent did not dissipate after a long time, something bad might happen. However, this was not something that Chu Mu should be worried about. He believed that the 5 venerables of Monster Shaker City would understand and know how to deal with it. Walking for 10 miles would take some time. When Chu Mu arrived, there were already more than 10 black-robed swordsmen gathered here. They were all core disciples of the Moro Sword sect. Originally, the Moro Sword sect had more than 20 core disciples, but some of them had died under the attack of the demonic beast army, leaving only 15. As soon as Chu Mu arrived, the 15 black-robed swordsmen's gazes all landed on Chu Mu's body. Every one of them flashed with an incomparably sharp light. Their leader, Feng Hao, strode over. "Very good. Since you are willing to settle your grudges, it will save us a lot of trouble." Feng Hao's expression was cold and harsh as he directly drew his sword and pointed it at Chu Mu. His footsteps suddenly accelerated as he rapidly approached. The tip of his sword trembled slightly as rays of sword light shot out like a torrential rain. Chu Mu's figure flashed as he shuttled through the rain, dodging the sword beams. He held the demon slaying sword in his left hand. Fong Hao's speed was extremely fast. He was like a bolt of lightning tearing through the air. He stabbed out with his extreme rank sword and performed his ancient sword art. The sword light exploded like thousands of lightning bolts. Chu Mu could only see lightning bolts in front of his eyes. They passed through the air and touched his skin, causing his skin to feel numb. 10,000 lightning breaking sky. Senior brother Fong wants to kill him with one sword attack. The black-robed swordsmen were all shocked. The 10,000 lightning breaking sky was the most powerful earth realm ancient sword art that Fong Hao had trained. It was extremely terrifying. Using the flying swan illusionary steps, Fong Hao's body was constantly changing. It was as if he was standing still, but at the same time it was also as if he was dashing forward at an extremely fast speed. It was hard to tell. Every single lightning bolt contained a powerful force that could easily kill a sword warrior of the Qi High realm. Hundreds of lightning bolts were densely packed together, like pythons coming out of their caves. Chu Mu squinted his eyes and his pupils contracted. Hundreds of lightning bolts were reflected in his eyes. The trajectory of each lightning bolt was blurry and hard to tell. Every single lightning bolt brought him great pressure, as if it wanted to shatter him into pieces. Under this pressure, Chu Mu focused all of his attention and cleared away all of his distracting thoughts. His mind went blank and everything around him seemed to disappear. All he could see were the powerful lightning bolts in front of him. Hyperfocus, the powerful soul power, and the pressure from the outside world made Chu Mu enter the hyperfocus state again. The hundreds of blurry lightning bolts suddenly became clear. Chu Mu used his movement art and jumped through the hundreds of lightning bolts, quickly approaching Fong Hao. In the eyes of the other black-robed swordsman, Chu Mu did not move at all. He was just waiting for the lightning bolts to break the sky and kill him. But in the next moment, Chu Mu's body disappeared. Only when they looked again did they realize that he had already passed through the lightning bolts and was quickly approaching Fong Hao. Fong Hao was also shocked. He changed his sword attack, and the hundreds of lightning bolts suddenly exploded into countless lightning bolts. The body of the sword seemed to have a suction force. The surrounding lightning bolts were all sucked into the body of the sword. The heaven and earth chi were all attached to the sword as well. In the blink of an eye, the body of the sword was covered with horrifying electric arcs that were jumping crazily, releasing a shocking destructive force. Chu Mu rushed out of the lightning zone and appeared in front of Fong Hao. Fong Hao's eyes shot out cold electricity. His pupils seemed to have been struck by lightning. He raised his sword and locked on to Chu Mu. This sword's momentum was not as powerful as the thousands of lightning bolts breaking the sky, but it made Chu Mu's heart palpitate. The power was even more powerful. The protective sword chi was directly shattered by the powerful sword pressure. His black hair danced wildly in the wind. The powerful sword pressure made it difficult for Chu Mu to breathe. In the hyperfocus state, the trajectory of Fong Hao's sword was clearly perceived by Chu Mu. Its speed, angle, and everything else appeared in Chu Mu's mind. Even the electric arcs jumping crazily on the sword were clearly perceived by Chu Mu. Die. The sword slashed down, accompanied by Fong Hao's roar. You're the one who's going to die. Chu Mu growled. His right hand grabbed the handle of the demon-slaying sword with lightning speed and attacked. Suddenly, the cold sword light burst out like an aurora. It was so blinding that Fong Hao couldn't help but squint. Chu Mu's sword slashed horizontally. This sword was not fast or slow. It was not as fast as Fong Hao's sword. There was no fluctuation of power on the sword. It was like a simple horizontal slash. A trace of disdain flashed through Fong Hao's heart. A trifling sword like this simply didn't have any power. He had even more confidence that he would be able to hit Chu Mu before Chu Mu's sword could hit him and insta-kill him. The sword suddenly sped up. It was completely out of Fong Hao's expectations. The sword wind brought by the demon-slaying sword was terrifying. It tore through Fong Hao's protective sword chi slightly. Fong Hao's expression changed. This ordinary sword strike suddenly made him feel great danger. It was as if he was a rabbit a second ago and a lion a second later. At this time it was too late to dodge. Fong Hao gritted his teeth and turned the sword slashing towards Chu Mu to the demon-slaying sword. He had a feeling that if he continued to slash at Chu Mu, he would be killed by Chu Mu's sword first. No matter what, he had to block Chu Mu's sword. The electric arcs on the sword became denser. Fong Hao's hair stood on end. Thunder burst out from his body like a thunder god. Slash iron. The demon-slaying sword collided with Fong Hao's electric sword. In an instant, Fong Hao's face turned pale. The demon-slaying sword cut through Fong Hao's top-grade sword like tofu. Its power was reduced, but its speed was still the same. Chu Mu's figure passed by Fong Hao. The dozen or so black-robed swordsmen only heard a cryptic breaking sound. Fong Hao seemed to have become a statue that didn't move. In the next breath, Fong Hao's upper body fell forward, but his lower body was still standing. Fresh blood spurted out from his broken waist. One sword kill. Senior brother Fong. The black-robed swordsmen were shocked. They roared in grief and anger. They immediately pulled out their swords and rushed towards Chu Mu. Avenge senior brother Fong! Every black-robed swordsman used their sword skills to attack Chu Mu. Under their swords, Chu Mu's body disappeared and reappeared on the other side. He counterattacked with the demon-slaying sword. In terms of numbers, the black-robed swordsmen were not a small number. In terms of cultivation, they were all at the Qi-Hai realm. 2 of them were at the peak of the Qi-Hai realm. The rest were all at the Qi-Hai realm. But in terms of strength, they were not as good as Fong Hao and Chu Mu. Using the flying swan illusory steps, he seemed to be motionless, but in reality he was swift and light. He shuttled through the dozen or so black-robed swordsmen. His monster-slaying sword slashed through the air with a cold sword light, and a slight slashing sound could be heard. In the blink of an eye, Chu Mu shuttled between the black-robed swordsmen. With his back facing them, he lightly swung the demon-slaying sword. Blood spilled out from the tip of the sword as he put the sword back into its scabbard. The black-robed swordsmen, with different postures, fell to the ground one by one. There was a dot or a horizontal line on their throats. The grudge has been settled, Chu Mu said softly, but he also understood that this was only temporary. The Emo Luo sword sect would not give up on their mission to kill him. Next was the time to reap the rewards. Chu Mu obtained a dozen space bracelets. Fong Hao had 2 space bracelets. One was his, an upper rank one. The other was his reward from the Demon Slaughter leaderboard. The other 14 black-robe swordsmen all had mid-rank space bracelets. Not to mention the other rewards. Just these space bracelets were already a great reward. Plus, the Demon Slaughter leaderboard that Fong Hao had obtained was not bad. Let's postpone our battle. When I break through to the origin realm, I will come find you. A voice came from afar. Anytime. Chu Mu smiled without turning his head. He was not surprised at all. He already knew that Void Butcher was nearby. Now that he saw Yi Chen kill Fong Hao with one sword attack, Void Butcher knew that he did not have the ability to kill Yi Chen. Since that was the case, why should he torture himself? Right now, Void Butcher was feeling very depressed. Originally, in his eyes, Chu Mu was just a talented young swordsman who could pique his interest. That was why he agreed to meet him in the next half of the year. He did not expect that in less than half a year, Chu Mu would grow so fast. He had broken through to the Low Qi-Hai realm, and his strength was even more horrifying than before, especially the sword attack that killed Fong Hao. Even Void Butcher felt a chill run down his spine. That sword attack seemed normal, but it was actually extremely dangerous. If he was Fong Hao, he would not be able to handle it either. After collecting the rewards, Chu Mu did not care about the corpses. Someone would take care of them. After returning to the demon-shaking city, Chu Mu went straight to the inn to rest and organize the rewards. Fong Hao did not get the mind-raising pellet. Only the top 3 of the demons slaughtering leaderboard would get it. However, he did get a mind-training pellet. The rest of the demon cores and soul stones were not as many as Chu Mu's. Only the primary extreme experience and the 3 gourds of pellets were the same. After resting for a day, Chu Mu said goodbye to Han Yi and left the inn with Chen Luo. They walked out of the demon-shaking city. Then, Chu Mu took out the beast seal pearl and released the wind-winged dragon. It had reached the high mid-rank, and its body had grown by 1/3. Let's go. We will come back when you are strong enough, Chu Mu said as he grabbed Qingluo's shoulder and jumped onto the back of the wind-winged dragon. The wind-winged dragon flapped its wings and shot into the sky. Qingluo turned around and looked at the demon-shaking city, as if he wanted to imprint the city in his mind. Soon, the wind-winged dragon turned into a small black dot and left the demon-shaking city. Here, only the legend of the sky sword remained, to be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote for me. Your support is my biggest motivation.